The divine sword is invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326. Finally seeing the deep sea demon Kun. After Yang Zai Ocean and his companions left, they continued to fly to the depths of the Soul Sea. As they flew deeper into the Soul Sea, the number of powerful people from the major empires became fewer and fewer. A few days later, they finally arrived at the deep sea of the Soul Sea. After arriving at the deep sea of the Soul Sea, they encountered more and more 100,000 year and 200,000 year soul beasts. In the end, Bingayan Killin and his companions had to stop. Yang Zai Ocean asked Bingayan Killin and his companions to wait for him on a deserted island, and he continued to fly forward under the protection of the medicine cauldron. When he flew deep enough and far enough, he could not even see the 200,000 soul beasts. Ahead, the sea was vast. The devilish energy was rolling. It was almost like the abyss of hell, where you couldn't see your fingers and couldn't tell the directions. Here, all sunlight disappeared. Even all colors disappeared, leaving only black, and even the seawater was black. Occasionally, an isolated island could be seen, but there was no grass growing above the isolated island. Even the isolated island was black. The further you went, the more turbulent the sea became, and huge waves of thousands of feet would rise from time to time. A terrifying invisible force enveloped this endless sea. Just like when he entered the abyss of hell, Yang Zai Ocean still felt suffocated even with the protection of the medicine cauldron. This suffocation came from the soul. Fortunately, he had been practicing by taking the soul pills made from the blood of the Lord of the Abyss these days, and his soul power had become much stronger. Yang Zai Ocean continued to fly to the deep sea and finally landed on an isolated island. On this isolated island, the demonic energy was so strong that it was almost impossible to dissolve. Even the rocks on the island were as black gems, flashing a chilling black light. This should be the hiding place of the deep sea demon Kun, right? Yang Zai Ocean asked. He used all his soul power to cover it, but he still couldn't find the hiding place of the deep sea demon Kun. At this time, the medicine cauldron flew out. Hey, little guy, are you ready? The voice of the medicine cauldron sounded. Yang Zai Ocean listened to the voice of the medicine cauldron and always had a bad premonition. Why did this old antique have a bad feeling? Carefully, he pushed the dragon up to its limit, even taking out the abyss spaceship and standing on it. Alright, Yang Zai Ocean said. As soon as Yang Zai Ocean finished speaking, the medicine cauldron swelled up in a crazy manner. The medicine cauldron, which was only 1 person tall, suddenly grew into a mountain. Then, it continued to swell wildly. As the medicine cauldron swelled wildly, the black demonic energy above the sea was all shaken away, and a terrifying golden light column reappeared in the world again. The golden light column blasted away the infinite demonic energy, and the deep sea, which was originally shrouded in thick black demonic energy, was instantly blasted into a terrifying hole. The hole continued to expand. An extremely powerful force swept violently. The surface of the Soul Sea was lifted up layer by layer. At this moment, whether it was the masters of the Yan family of the 10,000 Gods Empire or the disciples of the Kangshen Mansion, they all saw this terrifying golden light column. Everyone who entered the Soul Sea stopped at the same time, with a look of horror on their faces. What's going on? The strongest ancestors of the Yan family who entered the Soul Sea also changed color in horror. An unrivaled warrior has entered the deepest part of the Soul Sea. Who is he targeting in the Soul Sea? A world-shaking war is about to begin. Retreat. The elders of each family screamed in fear and fled with their followers. Suddenly, one after another, the strong men of each family fled in panic, trying to escape from the Soul Sea. Even the ancestor of the Tangshan God sect, Li using Gaiu, saw the terrifying golden light column and fled with his disciples Wu Fei and others. The terrifying golden light column became stronger and stronger, and the golden light spread like waves, spreading to one sea area after another. As if sensing the powerful power of the medicine cauldron, the surface of the entire deep sea of the Soul Sea also swelled wildly, and the entire sea surface was constantly propped up, just like the Lord of the Abyss had blown up the entire ground of the Abyss. Now, the surface of the entire deep sea of the Soul Sea was also blown up. Yangtze Ocean first saw two huge wings floating out of the sea. The size of these two wings was beyond Yangtze Ocean's description. When the two huge wings spread out, they actually covered the boundless sea area, and all the isolated islands were blown away. The isolated islands were big enough before. Some of them were as big as an imperial capital, but now these isolated islands are as small as acne in front of these huge wings. It's like acne growing on two huge wings. Yangtze Ocean was shocked. The deep sea demon Kun, with just two pairs of wings, is so huge. If it is the whole body, you can imagine how big it is. The two huge wings continued to float up. The demonic energy is boundless. The demonic energy that had been blasted away by the golden light waves of the medicine cauldron rose up again, trying to cover the sky again. When the two huge wings floated out of the sea, the deep sea demon Kun's body finally appeared in front of Yangtze Ocean. The body of the Lord of the Abyss filled the entire Hell Abyss, and the body of the deep sea demon Kun, which emerged from the sea, actually occupied the entire deep sea area. The entire deep sea area seems to be unable to accommodate its body. If we only talk about the body, the deep sea demon Kun's body seems to be a little bigger. Because the two wings of the deep sea demon Kun were so huge, the two wings spread out like an endless mountain range across the vast sea. The eyes of the deep sea demon Kun were also blood red, like two huge blood red islands. Seeing that the deep sea demon Kun's body finally appeared, Yaoding said nothing, and shot at the giant of the deep sea demon Kun with heavy golden light. Boom. A loud noise shook the whole Soul Sea. The terrifying waves exploded countless tons. All the islands were blown away and all were blown into sand and dust. The sand and dust mixed with the waves, roaring and flying, covering the Soul Sea for countless miles. The powerful men of the major empires who were fleeing in panic looked at this scene that seemed like the end of the world, and they were all horrified. Even the strongest ancestor of the Yan family of the 10,000 Gods Empire was trembling. Under the attack of Yaoding, the deep sea demon Kun was blown away, and it was unknown how many seas were blown away. The deep sea demon Kun screamed miserably. The sharp whistle resounded through the Soul Sea. The shock made countless strong men in the Soul Sea's brains split. Roar. The huge wings of the deep sea demon Kun suddenly slashed towards the medicine cauldron. Like two blades that cut through the sky, they cut through the void, and slashed on the golden light column of the medicine cauldron with destructive power. There was a bang. The medicine cauldron was shaken away. The huge wings of the demon Kun continued to slash down, and slashed on the Soul Sea. Suddenly, thousands of feet of waves exploded. All the islands were split into two, and all the sea surfaces were split into two. From a distance, it looked like two huge scars that could never be erased appeared on the sea surface. After the medicine cauldron was shaken away, the golden light rose again, exerting the power of the 9 heavenly tribulation thunderwater to the extreme, and blasted towards the deep sea demon Kun again. The medicine cauldron was so fast that only an amazing golden light column was seen. It was like a huge golden light column blasted onto the body of the deep sea demon Kun. With a loud bang, the deep sea demon Kun was blasted away again. Chapter 327 The Second Million Year Spirit Ring. The deep sea demon Kun was blown away, and countless islands were crushed. Yangtze Ocean was shaken, and flew over and over, smashing one island and mountain after another. Although he had seen the battle between the medicine cauldron and the Lord of the Abyss, Yangtze Ocean was still shocked. In one fell swoop, the power stirred up countless miles of sea area, and countless islands were destroyed. This kind of power is so great. After the deep sea demon Kun was blown away again, he looked up to the sky and roared. The roar turned into a terrifying sound wave force, like a superstorm, bombarding the medicine cauldron one after another. The terrifying sound wave force submerged the medicine cauldron one after another. Wherever the sound wave force passed, all the sea surfaces were plowed flat. Boom, boom, boom. A burst of intensive bombardment sounded like thunder and drums, shaking all the strong men in the Soul Sea. However, although the roar of the deep sea demon Kun was terrifying, it still could not break the golden light column of the medicine cauldron. Yaoding was ready to go, and bombarded the deep sea demon Kun again. Yaoding did not use any magical power to open the sky. Every bombardment was just pure power. With the power to shake the world, it bombarded the deep sea demon Kun again and again. The deep sea demon Kun was too big. Although its speed was also very fast, it was much slower than Yaoding, so it could not avoid Yaoding's bombardment every time. Blood dyed the Soul Sea red. The originally black Soul Sea turned bloody red. Yang Zai Ocean looked at the blood dyed red in the Soul Sea, but felt distressed. This was the blood of the deep sea demon Kun, that was more than 1 million years old. Every drop was a treasure. The battle continued. What Yaoding did not expect was that although the deep sea demon Kun was not as old as the Lord of the Abyss, its strength in the Soul Sea was not much weaker than that of the Lord of the Abyss, and the deep sea demon Kun was not a million years old, but a 1.5 million year old soul beast. The deep sea demon Kun's defense was not weaker than that of the Lord of the Abyss. Its animal skin was extremely smooth. When the power attacked it, its animal skin would resist a large part of the power. Therefore, the difficulty of killing the deep sea demon Kun is comparable to killing the Lord of the Abyss. Fortunately, there are enough 9 heavenly tribulations thunderwater to continuously provide strength support to the medicine cauldron. Yang Zai Ocean tried his best to watch the battle between the medicine cauldron and the deep sea demon Kun. After continuous fighting, the deep sea demon Kun finally lost its strength. Although the deep sea demon Kun has strong defense, the medicine cauldron focuses on its head, which is the weakest part of its defense. The deep sea demon Kun's head was blasted into a bloody mess by the medicine cauldron. A terrifying hole was blasted out on its head. Boom. Finally, after a strong bombardment from the medicine cauldron, the deep sea demon Kun fell to the depths of the Soul Sea. He tried to struggle to get up, but he was no longer able to support himself. Seeing this, the medicine cauldron breathed a sigh of relief, but it still bombarded it again, completely knocking the deep sea demon Kun into the depths of the Soul Sea. Looking at the deep sea demon Kun, who was dying, and had no power to fight back, Yang Zai Ocean flew towards the deep sea demon Kun. The soul of the deep sea demon Kun is already 1.5 million years old. Although it is not as good as the Lord of the Abyss, you still have to be extremely careful when you absorb it later. Yaoding returned to Yang Zai Ocean and said. Yang Zai Ocean nodded, thinking of the inhuman pain he experienced last time when he absorbed the soul of the Lord of the Abyss. He took a deep breath and came to the sky above the head of the deep sea demon Kun. At this time, a huge black light ball flew out from the head of the demon Kun. Seeing this huge black light ball, Yang Zai Ocean certainly knew what this black light ball was and quickly sat down and summoned the black tortoise martial soul. The black tortoise martial soul opened its huge mouth and began to devour the soul of the deep sea demon Kun. Suddenly, the surging energy of the abyss demon Kun beast soul rushed into the body of the black tortoise martial soul like a raging wave in the Soul Sea. The light of the black tortoise martial soul surged endlessly. The feeling of pain came again. Yang Zai Ocean quickly activated the dragon art, and the speed of the Zuanwu martial soul's devouring increased, and the pain eased a little. However, under the crazy infusion of the energy of the abyss demon Kun beast soul, the Zuanwu martial soul continued to grow. The pain of the soul being torn came again, and it became more and more intense, and the pain made Yang Zai Ocean almost lose consciousness. However, just as the Zuanwu martial soul was continuously expanded, the mysterious veins on the surface of its tortoise shell began to flash, and with each flash, the energy of the abyss demon Kun beast soul was relieved. The inhuman pain also eased. No matter how crazy the energy of the abyss demon Kun beast soul was infused, the Zuanwu martial soul never cracked. Even if it was expanded 10 times, 20 times, it was not broken. The tenacity of the Zuanwu martial soul's whole body defense was beyond imagination. The mysterious veins on the surface of the tortoise shell were surging, and with each surge, there must be a mysterious force rushing to every corner of the Zuanwu body, making the Zuanwu defense stronger and tougher. Seeing this, Yang Zai Ocean felt relieved. He gritted his teeth and insisted on running the dragon art over and over again. Finally, the abyss demon Kun's huge beast soul began to shrink. Every time it shrank, Yang Zai Ocean's soul pain was relieved. The black tortoise martial soul was surging with more light, and the black coldness roared all over the body. Everything in the sea around the Soul Sea was covered with a layer of black ice. The demon Kun beast soul continued to shrink. The black tortoise martial soul, which was originally stretched, finally began to recover slowly. Finally, a halo appeared around the black tortoise martial soul, which was the soul ring. Like the soul ring of the black dragon martial soul, it was also golden red. and next to the halo, there was another faint golden red halo. The demon Kun beast soul was 1.5 million years old, so the second golden red halo was very faint. As the soul ring of the black tortoise martial soul condensed, a violent divine power raged and rolled wildly. This divine power is exactly the divine power of the deep sea demon Kun itself. Wherever the divine power passes, all the soul beasts in the soul sea tremble and crawl underground, terrified. Finally, the shrunken demon Kun beast soul turned into a ray of light and merged with the black tortoise martial soul. At this point, the second soul ring was finally condensed successfully. The black tortoise martial soul and the black dragon martial soul coiled above Yang Zai Ocean's head. The two soul rings that were more than a million years old were blooming with golden red light, illuminating one area after another in the deep sea of the soul sea. In the sky, the wind and clouds changed color. Thunder and lightning flashed. It seemed to announce the birth of two soul rings that were more than a million years old in the soul world. The birth of two soul rings that were more than a million years old changed the color of the world. In the countless years of history of the soul world, no one has ever been able to condense two soul rings that are more than a million years old. Now, Yang Zai Ocean broke the eternal legend of the soul world and created this incredible miracle. Under the illumination of the two soul rings, Yang Zai Ocean's whole body seemed to be covered with layers of golden red light. Yang Zai Ocean's own realm also successfully broke through to the second level of the martial emperor. Feeling the huge power of the two soul rings, Yang Zai Ocean punched out, and the golden red fist force immediately blasted open the sea layer after layer until the end of the sea. After a long time, Yang Zai Ocean took the two martial souls back into his body. The golden red light covering the deep sea of the soul sea disappeared. The world gradually returned to normal. Chapter 328 10 Invincible Sword Hearts. Not bad, not bad. With the blessing of 2 million year soul rings, you are now capable of sweeping all the emperor realms. Yaoding exclaimed. Yang Zai Ocean's realm is too low now, and he cannot fully activate the power of the million year soul ring. However, even so, with the blessing of the 2 million year soul rings, Yang Zai Ocean can sweep all the masters in the emperor realm. In the future, as Yang Zai Ocean's realm continues to improve, he will be able to gradually exert the power of the million year soul ring. When Yang Zai Ocean enters the spirit realm, he will be able to fully exert the power of the million year soul ring. At that time, he will kill gods and buddhas. Yang Zai Ocean came to the body of the deep sea demon Kun, and his heartbeat accelerated when he saw the body of the deep sea demon Kun, which was larger than the Lord of the Abyss. Although the deep sea demon Kun had lost a lot of blood, the remaining blood of the deep sea demon Kun was enough for him to refine many demon Kun soul pills, enough to increase his soul power to an astonishing level. He put the deep sea demon Kun's body into the medicine cauldron. However, looking at the empty 9 heavenly tribulation thunder water, Yang Zai Ocean was really speechless. Previously, he had obtained more than 200 mouthfuls of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water in Kangshen Cave Mansion. Now, there is only one mouthful left. Only one mouthful. Every drop of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water can bring the dead back to life, and has incredible medicinal effects. Now that more than 200 mouthfuls of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water are gone, Yang Zai Ocean would be lying if he said he didn't feel bad. It's just more than 200 mouthfuls of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water. I'll find it later. Yaoding said with a smile. Just more than 200 mouthfuls? Yang Zai Ocean said in a daze. Go find more than 200 mouthfuls of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water and see. Yaoding smiled and said, more than 200 mouthfuls of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water, in exchange for 2 million year spirit rings. This is a good deal. Then he said, give me the remaining mouthful of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water, and I'll help you deal with Wu Peng of the Tatian sect. Seeing that Yaoding still wanted to take the last mouthful of 9-layered heavenly tribulation thunder water, Yang Zai Ocean said nothing and refused. He would deal with Wu Peng of the Tatian sect himself. When he returns to the Shenlong Empire, it will be the time to deal with the Tatian sect. Yang Zai Ocean flew out of the deep sea, and then found Bingai and Killin in the other two. Seeing Yang Zai Ocean, the 3 nervous people were overjoyed. Young master, you all ready? Bingai and Killin asked Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean nodded and smiled. It has been successful. Bing Iron Killin and Giant King Thunder Python were ecstatic. Congratulations, young master, for condensing the second million-year soul ring. Both of them bowed excitedly. Mishai and Emozu were stunned. At this time, Mishai and Emozu did not know that Yang Ocean had condensed the Lord of the Abyss soul ring. Afterwards, Yang Ocean found a deserted island and used the bones and skins of the deep sea demon Kun to refine the Abyss spaceship again. After the Abyss spaceship was refined again, it was even more demonic and cold, and its appearance changed again. Just as Yang Ocean was refining the Abyss spaceship, all the powerful men of the entire Soul Sea Empire looked at the direction of the Soul Sea Deep Sea in shock. Grandpa, should we go into the deep sea to take a look? Yanlong, the young master of the Yan family, looked at the direction of the deep sea with a dry mouth, and the flames of greed danced in his eyes. Yang Bi, the ancestor of the Yan family, looked at the direction of the deep sea of the Soul Sea, and his heart was also burning, but after some thought, he shook his head and rejected the idea of going to the deep sea to find out. No one knows what the situation is in the deep sea of the Soul Sea now. If you go there, Ashley, you don't know how you will die. Yanlong, the young master of the Yan family, couldn't help but look disappointed. Yan Bi glanced at Yanlong. He knew his grandson's ambition and said, think twice before you act. The most important thing for you now is to practice hard and strive to break through the Great Emperor realm as soon as possible, and then participate in the Kangshen Mansion assessment and join the Kangshen Mansion. Joining the Kangshen Mansion, this is the most important thing. Yanlong nodded solemnly. Grandpa, don't worry, I will definitely pass the Kangshen Mansion assessment and join the Kangshen Mansion. I will definitely be favored by Lord Kang Xiang and become a disciple chosen by God. The Lord of the Kangshen continent has been vacant for many years, so Kang Xiang intends to cultivate a new Lord of the Kangshen continent. Any disciple selected by Kang Xiang is called a disciple chosen by God. Like Yan Bi, the ancestor of the Yan family, although the masters of the major empires of the Kangshen continent want to explore the deep sea of the Soul Sea, they still dare not step into the deep sea of the Soul Sea in the end. After all, the deterrence of the deep sea demon Kun is too strong, and no one dares to step into its domain. After Yang Ocean refined the Abyss spaceship again, he and Bing Iron Killin left the Soul Sea, and then drove the Abyss spaceship to Zhangzhou of the Foyuan Empire. Zhangzhou Wudi City is about to open. No matter what, he must get the 1000 Buddha sword. On the spaceship, he was not idle either. He began to practice the 48th move of Tangshan sword technique, sword pointing to the 9 realms. Yang Ocean's sword was like a rainbow, cutting through the clouds and waves, piercing through the void, and pointing directly to the sky. This sword seemed to pierce through the 9 realms of heaven and earth. After a few days, he finally successfully practiced the move of pointing the sword to the 9 realms. Then, he began to practice the 49th move of Tangshan sword technique, one sword to confer gods. One sword to confer gods is the last move of Tangshan sword technique and the strongest move. It is extremely mysterious. Under one sword, the world is full of sword energy, all demons retreat, and all gods are shocked. Yang Ocean carefully read the move of one sword, to confer gods again, before he drew his sword. As soon as the sword came out, the sword energy shone in the void, and it actually caused thunder and lightning. Yang Ocean continued to draw his sword, and the thunder became louder and the lightning became more dense. When Yang Ocean used the third sword, various strange phenomena appeared in the void. In this way, Yang Ocean practiced the last move of Tangshan sword technique over and over again, and comprehended the deeper mysteries of the sword sealing God over and over again. Finally, half a month later, Yang Ocean successfully practiced this last move. Under the sword, thunder exploded, sword energy whistled, as if all the gods were crying, and the world seemed to be retreating. After successfully practicing the last move, Yang Ocean began to practice from the first move to the 49th move. Before, he had never practiced the 49 moves of Tangshan sword technique in a coherent manner. Now that he practiced it in a coherent manner, he had a deeper understanding of the Tangshan sword Dao of Tangshan sword technique. In this way, Yang Ocean performed Tangshan sword technique over and over again, and constantly comprehended Tangshan sword Dao. He entered a mysterious realm. The whole person seemed to be integrated with the sky and the sword. The affairs of the 9 realms had nothing to do with him anymore. In his heart, there was only the sword and the Tangshan sword Dao. The 9 sword hearts on Yang Ocean's chest glowed brightly, and the 10th sword heart began to loom and grow stronger. On this day, Bingan Kilin, Shan King Li Mang and the other 2 were guarding the bow of the spaceship. Suddenly, a terrifying sword power rose into the sky and swept away the clouds. 10 9-color sword key swept through the 9 heavens and 10 earths with the momentum of sweeping away gods and demons. Looking at the 10 9-color sword key, Bingan Kilin and the other 2 were shocked. 10 sword hearts. After comprehending the Tangshan sword way over and over again, Yang Ocean finally succeeded in condensing the 10th invincible sword heart. 9 sword hearts are rare in the ages. What about 10? Amazing the ages, amazing the gods. Even some sword gods cannot condense 10 invincible sword hearts. Chapter 329, Emperor Wu City opens. Looking at Yang Ocean's 10 9-color sword hearts and sword key, Bingan Kilin and the other 2 were shocked and could not suppress their excitement. These were 10 sword hearts, and they were invincible 9-color sword hearts. 10. There were so many geniuses in Kangshan continent, but it was rare to be able to condense 9 sword hearts, let alone 10. The 3 were shocked for a long time. After a long time, the 10 9-color sword hearts and sword key finally dissipated, and the invincible power that enveloped the world also slowly disappeared. Yang Ocean came out of the secret room. The 3 excitedly came to Yang Ocean and bowed, saying, "Congratulations, young master, for condensing 10 sword hearts. Young master is unparalleled." Yang Ocean asked the 3 to stand up, and he could not suppress his excitement. Finally, 10 9-color sword hearts were condensed. Generally speaking, 10 sword hearts are the best sword hearts. Many evil sword geniuses, even if they work hard all their lives, can only condense 10 sword hearts. And now, he has reached a realm that many evil sword geniuses can only reach in their lifetime. Yang Ocean was happy and took out 3 holy level pills and gave them to the 3 people. The 3 people thanked Yang Ocean again. Especially the devil ancestor Mishan. He thanked Yang Ocean even more. He was originally a demigod, and he had been following Yang Ocean these days, swallowing holy level pills to practice, and he had already reached the peak of demigods. With another holy level pill, he had hope of breaking through to the level of a god. Then, on the way, Yang Ocean began to practice thunder moving 9 days. Suddenly, the sword energy shone through the 9 days again. The divine thunder was rolling like the sea. Half a month later, Yang Ocean also successfully practiced all 49 moves of thunder moving 9 days. Yang Ocean practiced thunder moving 9 days from beginning to end, comprehending the divine thunder sword Dao. As long as he comprehends the divine thunder sword Dao thoroughly, he will have the hope of condensing the 11th sword heart. However, without the ancient thunder god sword, he could never truly comprehend the divine thunder sword Dao, and always felt that there was a thin layer of sherd between him. In fact, even without the ancient thunder god sword, he could still comprehend the divine thunder sword Dao, but it would take longer, perhaps 3 or 4 years. But with the ancient thunder god sword, he might be able to comprehend the divine thunder sword Dao within a few days. So, when he has time in the future, he has to go back to the ancient thunder god cave to see if he can find the ancient thunder god sword. After failing to comprehend the divine thunder sword Dao, Yang Ocean began to look through the 1000 Buddha medicine god's secret books on refining medicine and refining equipment. Generally speaking, a master of refining medicine is also a master of refining equipment, and the 1000 Buddha medicine god's cave also has many secret books on refining equipment. So, in his spare time, Yang Ocean tried to control the 2 great divine fires to refine heavenly weapons. One day, when Yang Ocean was looking through the secret books on refining equipment, Bingan Kilin came in to report that Zhangzhou City was approaching. Yang Ocean came out of the secret room and saw the mountains in front of him undulating, and after crossing thousands of mountains, there was an extremely majestic city. That was Wudi City. The ancient Emperor Wu was called the greatest emperor of all time by many powerful men in the Foyuan Empire. Emperor Wu was not only the most amazing emperor in the history of the Foyuan Empire, but also one of the most amazing emperors in the Kangshan continent. The martial arts left by Emperor Wu were naturally extraordinary. When Yang Zai Ocean arrived at Emperor Wu City, he saw a sea of people in the mountains around Emperor Wu City. When Emperor Wu City opened, almost all the masters of the major superpowers in the Foyuan Empire came. Not only the Foyuan Empire, but also the surrounding empires had masters coming. Looking at the noisy sea of people, Yang Zai Ocean shook his head. No wonder the devil ancestor Mishan said that every year when Emperor Wu City opened, it would be extremely chaotic. There were too many people and disputes were inevitable. Since Emperor Wu City would open in a few hours, Yang Zai Ocean simply sat down on a mountain not far away and waited for Emperor Wu City to open. The sea of people suddenly became a commotion. The Tathagata Buddha and the Dragon Goddess are here. A large group of masters came from a distance. The leader was Tang Huan, the Tathagata Buddha, and Yeo Kingsu, the Dragon Goddess. Tathagata Buddha, Dragon Goddess. Someone in the crowd shouted excitedly. Although Tang Huan did not even have the courage to compete with Yang Zai Ocean in medicine in Fo Guang City, it did not prevent the disciples of Foyuan Empire from fanatically worshipping Tang Huan. Tang Huan ignored the excitement of the crowd and scanned the four directions, searching for Yang Zai Ocean's figure. This time when Woody City was opened, Yang Zai Ocean should come, right? Thinking of the scene in the main hall of the pharmacist in Fo Guang City, Tang Huan clenched his fists. He swore that, if he met Yang Zai Ocean again this time, he would definitely defeat Yang Zai Ocean. In front of the strong men from all sides, defeat Yang Zai Ocean thoroughly. Only in this way can he reshape his power as the son of Tathagata Buddha. Otherwise, this will become a stain on his life. Tang Huan was looking for Yang Zai Ocean's figure, and Yeo Kingsu also scanned the crowd, secretly looking forward to the appearance of the light blue figure. Not long after Tang Huan and Yeo Kingsu arrived, the Demon Heaven Sword God and Wei Zhangyuan also arrived one after another. The arrival of the Magic Sky Sword God and Wei Zhangyuan also caused a great sensation. I heard that Wei Zhangyuan's soul ring has evolved to 100,000 years. What? 100,000 years? How is this possible? When the news that Wei Zhangyuan's 99,000 year soul ring had evolved to 100,000 years came out, the crowd was boiling. Everyone was shocked and unbelievable. You know, even the Magic Sky Sword God, the soul ring he condensed back then was not 100,000 years, but Wei Zhangyuan reached 100,000 years. It's true. I heard that the Magic Sky Sword God took him into an ancient land, and after 9 deaths and 1 life, Wei Zhangyuan's soul ring finally evolved to 100,000 years. An expert said excitedly. Some people say that Yang Zai Ocean's soul ring is also 100,000 years old. Is it true or not? No one has seen Yang Zai Ocean's soul ring. I don't think Yang Zai Ocean's soul ring is necessarily 100,000 years old. In the crowd, everyone was arguing. After the Magic Sky Sword God and Wei Zhangyuan arrived, soon, the ancestor of the Tangshan Divine Sect, Liu Xingyu, arrived with his disciple Wu Fei. Accompanying Liu Xingyu were a group of masters from the Qin family in Zhangzhou. The arrival of Liu Xingyu and Wu Fei attracted everyone's attention and caused a strong commotion. Everyone knew that the Tangshan divine religion was one of the most powerful giants in the Wuhan world. Although the Tangshan divine religion in Zhangzhou was only a branch, it was still superior to the major superpowers in the Foyuan Empire. Yang Zai Ocean somehow offended the Tangshan divine religion. Liu Xingyu has already threatened to let the Xianzang Academy bring Yang Zai Ocean out. What? Yang Zai Ocean offended the Tangshan divine religion. The Xianzang Academy will definitely protect Yang Zai Ocean, so there will be something interesting to watch. Everyone was talking about it. The most talked about person was naturally Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean's face was calm, and he ignored everyone's discussion. After several hours, finally, the light of Woody City surged, and the light shield that originally enveloped Woody City disappeared in the blink of an eye. Woody City is open. Suddenly, a sea of people rushed into Woody City frantically. The wide gate of Woody City felt like it was about to burst. Screams and roars were heard one after another. The weaker ones were all kicked away, crushed, and trampled to death. After a while, seeing that it was almost time, Yang Zai Ocean stepped into the air and entered the Woody City with Bingai and Killin in the other two. Chapter 330, Comprehending the Martial Arts. Although there were still many people, with the presence of Bingai and Killin in the other two, they successfully entered the Emperor Wu City. Emperor Wu City was very large, like a small land. The Thousand Buddha medicine god only said that the Thousand Buddha sword was in Emperor Wu City, but did not say the specific location, so Yang Xiaoshan still needed to find the Thousand Buddha sword. However, Emperor Wu City was so large that it was not easy to find the Thousand Buddha sword. Do you know where the Thousand Buddha medicine god and Emperor Wu made the bet? Yang Xiaoshan asked Bingai and Killin and the other two. Bingai and Killin and Giant King Thunder Python shook their heads. Mishai and Emozu said, it was too long ago, and there is no way to investigate it. After thinking for a while, he said, it should be in the Wujing Hall and the Medicine God Hall. He explained, the Wujing Hall was the place where Emperor Wu stayed the most back then. As for the Medicine God Hall, the Medicine God lived in the Medicine God Hall for a long time back then. Yang Xiaoshan thought about it and said, then let's go to the Wujing Hall first. After that, he and Bingai and Killin and the other two went to the Wujing Hall first. So, Mishai and Emozu led the way, and the others flew to the Wujing Hall. There are many palaces in Wudi City, hundreds of thousands of them. Fortunately, the demon ancestor Mishayan had been to Wudi City many times, and he brought Yang Xiaoshan and others to the Wujing Hall with ease. The Wujing Hall is super large, and the hall can accommodate 100,000 people. People walking inside seem very small. On the walls around the hall, there are all kinds of martial arts. However, there are only images, no text. This is a martial arts book left by the Wu Emperor. The martial arts book is a strange book. Many geniuses read the martial arts book, and their understandings are different. There is no sword technique, no knife technique, no boxing technique, and no palm technique in the martial arts book. There are only strange images. However, some sword geniuses have comprehended a set of supreme magical sword techniques from these images. Some knife geniuses have comprehended the supreme magical knife techniques from these images. Legend has it that the supreme sword technique of Foyuan College, Juming Wuxiang sword technique, was comprehended by a certain dean of Foyuan from these images. Juming Wuxiang sword technique is now one of the strongest supreme magical powers of Foyuan College. When Yang Xiaoshan and his companions entered the hall, there were already hundreds of people comprehending the martial arts images on the wall. Everyone was concentrating on comprehending the martial arts images, so when Yang Xiaoshan and his companions came in, no one paid attention to them. Yang Xiaoshan walked to the first image. He and Bingai and Killin and his companions began to watch these martial arts images. Yang Xiaoshan read very quickly, finishing the first image in a few breaths, and then came to the second image. After a few breaths, he went to the third image. After a while, Yang Xiaoshan had already seen the 20th image. An old ancestor in the hall saw Yang Xiaoshan comprehending the martial arts images in a cursory manner, and frowned. Young man, comprehending the martial arts, like you does not have any effect at all. It is better for you not to comprehend it like this. Yang Xiaoshan smiled when he heard this, but did not say anything. After a few breaths, he went to see the 21st image. Grandmaster, you are a person of high status, but you gave instructions to this kid, but he still insisted on doing it. He is too ignorant. A subordinate behind the ancestor said. The ancestor shook his head and said, it is normal for a disciple like him who has just entered the martial arts to be ambitious. Then he said, it will be difficult for this boy to achieve anything in the future. At this moment, suddenly, somewhere in the hall, sword energy soared into the sky, and the amazing sword energy startled everyone in the hall. Everyone looked and saw a grey-robed young man standing in front of the last image. The young man carried a long sword on his back. At this moment, his whole body was wrapped in sword energy, and sword energy flew out of his body one after another. There were as many as 19 sword energies. Obviously, after watching the martial arts images, this young man comprehended the supreme swordsmanship and generated sword energy. It is Liang Fang, the chief disciple of Lingayan sword sect. Liang Fang was born with a diamond sword body and is one of the most talented sword geniuses of the younger generation of Foyuan. Many people recognized the grey-robed young man and were shocked. The old ancestor who had previously instructed Yang Xiaoshan also exclaimed, Lingayan sword sect has produced an extraordinary and peerless swordsmanship genius. Every year, there are tens of millions of disciples who enter Wudi City, if not hundreds of millions, and most of them are genius disciples from major forces. However, there are only a few who can comprehend the supreme swordsmanship from the martial arts left by the Woody Emperor of Woody City. Yang Xiaoshan ignored everyone and walked to the next image. After comprehending one image, unknowingly, he came to the last image. Seeing Yang Xiaoshan walk to the last image so quickly, the old ancestor shook his head and was about to retract his gaze. Suddenly, a terrifying sword energy shot out from Yang Xiaoshan. Even the Wujing Hall could not block this terrifying sword energy. The sword energy penetrated the Wujing Hall and went straight into the sky. Everyone was shocked. Even Liang Fang, who had just finished comprehending the Wujing of Lingayan sword sect and was about to leave the hall, stopped in shock and looked at Yang Xiaoshan in shock. Then, another sword energy burst out from Yang Xiaoshan. This sword energy was stronger, more fierce, and more amazing. Then, like firing a chain of cannons, one after another terrifying sword energy burst out from Yang Xiaoshan. 19, 20, 21. Soon, it reached 30 sword energy. 30 sword energy. A sword master in the hall was shocked. Generally speaking, the stronger the sword skills learned from the martial arts images, the more self-generated sword energy there is. Just now, Liang Fang of Lingayan sword sect had generated 19 sword energy, which was already shocking to everyone, but Yang Xiaoshan has now generated 30 sword energy, and it is still continuing. Impossible. The old ancestor just now was stunned, and his subordinates were even more stunned. 31. 32. Soon, the sword energy exceeded 40. Everyone in the hall was shocked. Back then, the Dean of Foyuan College had only 40 sword energy when he learned the desperate sword technique. Now, after Yang Xiaoshan reached 40 swords, his body sword energy continued to burst out. 50. When Yang Xiaoshan's sword energy reached 50, everyone in the hall was shocked. It seems that Master Ji Wudi had 50 swords. Some masters trembled. Ji Wudi. Everyone was shocked. Everyone in the hall knew who Ji Wudi was. He was known as the most talented sword genius in the history of Xianzang Academy and the strongest sword ancestor of Xianzang Academy. Even the magic heaven sword god had to retreat when facing the sword ancestor Ji Wudi. Ji Wudi could only comprehend 50 swords when he comprehended the martial arts classics, but the young man in front of him actually surpassed the sword ancestor Ji Wudi. 51. 52. When Yang Xiaoshan's sword energy broke through 60, everyone felt paralyzed with fear. The old ancestor who had just instructed Yang Xiaoshan was even more out of breath, and his chest rose and fell like waves. The strong men from all sides who poured into Woody City also saw the terrifying sword energy above the martial arts hall. Who is it? Who is it that comprehended the martial arts classics and actually comprehended 60 sword energies? All the sect masters were shocked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Tang Huan vomits blood. 60 sword ki. What does this mean? From ancient times to now, no one in Woody City has ever been able to comprehend 60 sword ki. Even the most amazing and enchanting sword genius could not comprehend 60 sword ki. But now, someone has comprehended 60 sword ki, which makes the strong men from all sides of Woody City surprised and afraid. In the hall, Liang Fang, the sword genius of Lingayan sword sect, had already had a blank mind, and only the bright sword ki rising in his eyes. When Yang Xiaoshan's sword ki broke through 90, many people collapsed on the ground. Is it going to reach 100? Someone trembled. Although no one has ever been able to comprehend 60 sword ki, the Wu Emperor once said that, whether it is comprehending the martial arts classics, or comprehending other sword monuments in Woody City, the highest can reach 100 sword ki. Under the eyes of everyone holding their breath, excitement, trembling, incredible, and shocked, the 100th sword ki finally burst out from Yang Xiaoshan's body. 100. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan had really comprehended 100 sword ki, everyone in the hall could no longer express their excitement and shock in words. However, just when everyone thought it was over, suddenly, another sword ki shot out from Yang Xiaoshan's body. 101. Everyone was stunned. Didn't they say that the highest number of sword ki was 100? How come it was 101 now? Exclamation mark. He is Yang Shen. Suddenly, someone shouted excitedly. What? Yang Shen? 3,000 emperors Yang Shen. Fighting the 3,000 emperors alone. Many masters called Yang Xiaoshan the 3,000 emperors Yang Shen. Everyone in the hall was excited. After Yang Xiaoshan's sword ki reached 101, it finally stopped. Although he had comprehended the martial arts classics and comprehended 101 sword ki, Yang Xiaoshan was not happy at all, but frowned. Because he had confirmed that the martial arts hall did not have the 1000 Buddha sword. If the martial arts hall had it, his sword ki just now would have already triggered the 1000 Buddha sword. This made Yang Xiaoshan somewhat disappointed. Therefore, Yang Xiaoshan did not stay any longer and left the martial arts hall with Bingai and Killin and the other two. When everyone in the hall saw Yang Xiaoshan comprehending the martial arts and comprehending 101 sword ki, they were not happy at all, but left the hall with a depressed look and looked at each other. After leaving the martial arts hall, Yang Xiaoshan did not stop for a moment and rushed to the medicine god hall. There was only one day before the opening of the Emperor City, and he had to find the 1000 Buddha sword within one day, otherwise he would have to wait another year. Just as Yang Xiaoshan left the martial arts hall, in a sword cave in the Emperor City, Tang Huan, the son of Tathagata Buddha, stood in front of a sword stele, and his whole body was surging with sword ki, which was amazing. Sword ki burst out from Tang Huan, no more, no less, a full 49 sword ki. Everyone in the sword cave was shocked when they saw this. As expected of the son of Tathagata Buddha, comprehending the Buddha sea sword stele, he actually comprehended 49 sword ki. There was a burst of praise. At this moment, suddenly, outside the sword cave, someone shouted excitedly, 3,000 Emperor Yang Shen comprehended the martial arts classics and comprehended 101 sword ki. 101 sword ki. The voice spread into the sword cave, and the excited people in the sword cave were all shocked. Tang Huan, who was just full of pride, was suddenly interrupted by the sword ki in his body. He stood there, his face full of disbelief, and then his face turned pale and bloodless, and he felt a dark scene in front of his eyes. Comprehending the martial arts classics, 101 sword ki. This is fake, right? The Emperor Wu said that any sword art in the Emperor Wu city can only reach 100 sword ki. It's absolutely true. Hundreds of masters in the martial arts hall saw it with their own eyes. And after Yang Xiaoshan comprehended 101 sword ki, he was not happy at all, and then left very depressed. Comprehended 101 sword ki. Still very depressed? Still not happy at all? Tang Huan felt that the sky was dark and suddenly spit out a big mouthful of black blood, spraying the sword monument in front of him with black blood. After leaving the martial arts hall, Yang Xiaoshan, Bingai and Killin and the other two flew to the medicine god hall. The medicine god hall was a little far from the martial arts hall, and it took them more than an hour to get there. In the square of the medicine god hall, there was a super large cauldron, which caught Yang Xiaoshan's attention. When the devil ancestor Mishan saw Yang Xiaoshan paying attention to the super large cauldron in the square, he said, "This is the giant spirit cauldron, which was used by the 1000 Buddha medicine god, before he became the medicine god. This giant spirit cauldron is a top level holy weapon. It has been here for many years, but no one has been able to take it away." Yang Xiaoshan was surprised. No one can take it away. Yes, this giant spirit cauldron has become one with the martial emperor city. The devil ancestor Mishan said. Yang Xiaoshan looked at the giant spirit cauldron. He was still sure that he could take the giant spirit cauldron away, but he already had the medicine cauldron and the jade dragon heavenly cauldron, so there was no point in taking the giant spirit cauldron. Moreover, it would take a lot of time to move the giant cauldron to cut off its connection with the Emperor Wu city, so Yang Xiaoshan did not move it. After bypassing the giant cauldron, several people entered the medicine god hall. There were many people in the medicine god hall, much more than the martial arts hall, with as many as 1 or 2,000 people. The walls of the medicine god hall were engraved with various images, just like the walls of the martial arts hall. However, half an hour later, Yang Xiaoshan walked out of the medicine god hall. Because the 1000 Buddha sword was also not in the medicine god hall. Knowing that Yang Ocean was looking for the 1000 Buddha sword, the Sky Blue Thunder Python pondered and said, "Young master, maybe you can go to Jianyuan to have a look." "Jianyuan?" Yang Ocean asked. "There is a place called Jianyuan in Woody City. There are hundreds of millions of swords. Many warriors go to Jianyuan to choose swords after entering Woody City. However, Jianyuan is very dangerous. Once the sword tide of Jianyuan is rioting, even the powerful gods will be buried in Jianyuan." Xian King Li Mang explained, "The 1000 Buddha sword may be in Jianyuan." After thinking about it, Yang Ocean decided to go to Jianyuan with the three of them. However, just as they flew to Jianyuan, they saw a large group of masters flying towards them. It was Liu Xingyu, Wu Fei and a group of masters from Tangshan Divine Sect, and in addition to them, there were Wei Zhangyuan and Lian Yao Kingsu. Chapter 332. I'll play a trick with him. Yao Kingsu should have met Wei Zhangyuan, Liu Xingyu and others on the road, and traveled together. However, Wei Zhangyuan's master, the magic sky sword god, was not seen. Yang Ocean did not expect to meet Wei Zhangyuan and others. Wu Fei, Wei Zhangyuan, Yao Kingsu and others also did not expect to meet Yang Ocean. Yang Ocean. Wei Zhangyuan shouted in hatred when he saw Yang Ocean from a distance. Liu Xingyu immediately looked at Yang Ocean, his eyes cold. "Is he Yang Ocean? Master, he is Yang Ocean." Wu Fei looked at Yang Ocean and said in hatred. Liu Xingyu's face was cold, and he led a group of masters to fly towards Yang Ocean, Bingai Kilin and others. Yang Ocean, right. Liu Xingyu came in front of Yang Ocean and said coldly, "You are so brave that you dare to hurt my disciples of Tangshan Divine Sect. Do you think that with Ji Wudi behind you, we in Tangshan Divine Sect dare not do anything to you? If we in Tangshan Divine Sect want to kill you, even Ji Wudi can't stop it." However, just when Liu Xingyu was about to take action, suddenly, Wei Zhangyuan stepped forward and said, "Senior, I want to fight with Yang Ocean. Please allow me to fight with Yang Ocean. Wait until I defeat Yang Ocean, and then hand him over to Yang Ocean for disposal." Fearing that Liu Xingyu would not agree, he said, "Please help me, senior." Liu Xingyu hesitated for a moment, nodded and smiled. "Okay, I heard that my nephew's soul ring has evolved to 100,000 years, and we can just broaden our horizons." The ancestor of the Chen family smiled and said, "Yes, I have lived for thousands of years, and I have never seen what a 100,000 year soul ring looks like. It would be a blessing if I could see it today." Wei Zhangyuan clasped his fists to Liu Xingyu and the other man and said, "Thank you, two seniors." Then he turned and walked towards Yang Ocean. "Yang Ocean, after the last battle at Wangshan Peak, in order to defeat you, I entered an ancient land, survived a narrow escape, and finally evolved my soul ring to 100,000 years. This time, I will defeat you. Defeat you thoroughly." At this point, Wei Zhangyuan's aura surged, and a dazzling light shot up into the sky, and a huge 9-colored bird flew out of its body. When this huge 9-colored bird flew out, a pleasant bad song resounded throughout the Woody City. The 9-colored light was like a wave, spreading to every corner of the Woody City. As the 9-colored bird flew out, a huge red halo appeared around the 9-colored bird's body. The red halo was extremely dazzling, illuminating the surrounding space, and a terrifying divine power swept over. At the same time, in the red halo, the figure of the purple-eyed bull demon king was looming. At this moment, many strong men in Woody City heard the cry of the 9-colored bird, and felt the power of the red light ring. 9-colored peacock king martial soul. It's a 100,000 year soul ring. Only the legendary 100,000 year soul ring is red. It's Wei Zhangyuan who is going to take action. He summoned the 9-colored peacock king martial soul and the 100,000 year soul ring. One after another, the strong men were all shocked and looked over here. Even Yao Kingsu, Liu Xingyu and others could not hide their shock when they saw Wei Zhangyuan's 9-colored peacock king martial soul and the 100,000 year soul ring. The 9-colored peacock king martial soul is a 14th level high level martial soul. 14th level martial souls are rare in the Kangshan continent, and 14th level high level martial souls like the 9-colored peacock king are even rarer. As for the 100,000 year soul ring, it is even rarer to see it in the ages. Not to mention Yao Kingsu, even the gods and spirit ancestors like Li using Guy who saw the 100,000-year soul ring for the first time. The 100,000-year soul ring, like a red sun, bloomed with a strong red light. Under the light of the 100,000-year soul ring, the surrounding streets were all covered in red, as if they were all dyed red. Wei Zhongyuan stood there, his whole body was like a piece of red battle armor, his momentum continued to soar. Yang Zai Ocean, do you think I only have a soul ring that has evolved to 100,000 years? This time in the ancient land, I also had a great adventure, and condensed the 8th golden Buddha sword heart. At this point, one golden Buddha sword heart after another in his body lit up. One sword beam after another shot out. Every time a golden Buddha sword heart lit up, there was a golden Buddha shadow behind him. 8 golden Buddha shadows condensed around his body. At the same time, Wei Zhongyuan also urged the Mingwang immovable sword body, and more than 20,000 Mingwang sword ki wrapped around his body. 8 golden Buddha sword hearts. Seeing that Wei Zhongyuan actually condensed 8 golden Buddha sword hearts, whether it was Li using Gaiu, Yao Kingsu and others, they were shocked again. Although it was not 9, but 8, it was enough to shock all walks of life. Wei Zhongyuan held an ancient sword and pointed it at Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean, make your move. The faces of the 3 people from Bingai and Kilin turned cold. Yang Zai Ocean stretched out his hand to stop the 3 people and said, it's okay, it's still early, I'll play a trick with him. One trick. This time, he wanted to play a trick with him and kill him. Hearing Yang Zai Ocean say that he wanted to play a trick with him, Wei Zhongyuan laughed angrily. Yang Zai Ocean, do you still think you can be as invincible as you were at Wangshan Peak? Your sword heart is just one more than mine. But my soul ring is 100,000 years old. And it's the purple-eyed bull demon king soul ring. My current strength has long surpassed yours. You actually dared to say that you can play a trick with me. Wei Zhongyuan was furious, and the 100,000-year soul ring shone brightly. Even the sky was illuminated in red. Chapter 333, the million-year soul ring reappears in the world. Yang Zai Ocean looked at the red 100,000-year soul ring behind Wei Zhongyuan and said, it's just a 100,000-year soul ring. You have the nerve to show off such a soul ring. When Wei Zhongyuan heard Yang Zai Ocean say that it was okay to show off a 100,000-year soul ring, he was furious. Just as he was about to speak, suddenly, a terrifying breath burst out from Yang Zai Ocean's body. Heavy black cold air was like an endless black sea, sweeping across the world. Everything was frozen, wherever the black cold air passed. A black tortoise as big as a continent was suspended above Yang Zai Ocean's head. When the black tortoise appeared, the entire woody city instantly became dark. The sun in the sky had been completely blocked. All the sunlight disappeared. Even the 9-color light of the 9-colored peacock king was completely blasted away. The 9-colored peacock king behind Wei Zhongyuan was big enough, with its wings spread out like a mountain, but at this time, in front of Yang Zai Ocean's Zuanwu martial soul, which was as big as a continent, it was like a chicken. The Zuanwu martial soul descended on the world and roared to the sky. Suddenly, the might of the Supreme King roared and shook the heaven and earth. The heaven and earth trembled. One palace after another in Woody City actually flashed with light. One after another, the shadows of the ancient gods appeared above Woody City. The might of the Zuanwu Supreme King's roar actually triggered the supreme restrictions of tens of thousands of palaces in Woody City, and triggered all the ancient god imprints in Woody City. All the strong men in Woody City were horrified and looked at the black Zuanwu in the sky that was as big as a continent. What kind of martial spirit is this? How can it be so terrifying and so huge? It's the Supreme King. It's definitely the Supreme King martial spirit. An old ancestor of a sect was so excited that he spoke incoherently. What? The Supreme King martial spirit? It's been a million years, and the Supreme King martial spirit has reappeared in the world. One after another, the old ancestors were so excited that their bodies trembled and their eyes were filled with tears. The Supreme King? Exclamation mark. Li Zingai was shocked. Wei Zhongyuan was shocked. Yao Kingsu's cherry mouth was so big that a big dragon egg could be stuffed in. Since the battle at Wangshan Peak, everyone has been guessing what Yang Zai Ocean's martial soul is. Now, she finally knows what Yang Zai Ocean's martial soul is. The Supreme King. It's actually the Supreme King. Just when everyone was shocked that the Supreme King's martial soul reappeared in the world after a million years, suddenly, a golden red halo appeared around the body of the Zuanwu martial soul. When the golden red halo appeared, the entire Woody city seemed to be unable to withstand the power of this soul ring. The entire Woody city was shaking violently, and terrifying rifts appeared on the ground. The palaces were shaking. Even the shadows of the ancient gods were swaying in the wind, and even the shadows of the ancient gods showed terrified eyes. The palace's prohibition burst out with unprecedented light. The entire Woody city was gushing out a strong light, and an extremely huge phantom appeared above the Woody city. It was the mark of the god left by the Woody back then. The divine mark left by Emperor Wu has never appeared before. It will only be activated when Emperor Wu city is hit by overwhelming force. And now, Emperor Wu's divine mark is activated to resist the terrifying divine power brought by the golden red soul ring. The ancestors of each sect looked at the golden red soul ring that supported the sky and the earth in horror. What kind of soul ring is this? How can there be such a soul ring in the world? Is it 200,000 years? Or 300,000 years? Just as everyone was shocked and guessing, suddenly, they saw that a huge black figure appeared in the golden red soul ring. This black figure, with its wings spread out, was like an endless mountain range across the sky and the earth. Seeing this faint black figure, the demon heaven sword god who was comprehending the sword in the deepest part of Emperor Wu city looked unbelievable and full of fear. Back then, he was ignorant of the height of the sky and the depth of the earth, and entered the deep sea of the soul sea. He will never forget the breath of this black figure. This breath that made him palpitate all his life appeared again. Deep Sea Demon Kun. It's a Deep Sea Demon Kun soul ring. A million-year soul ring. Oh my god, it's a million-year soul ring. Seeing this black figure, an ancient ancestor shouted excitedly. Deep Sea Demon Kun. Hearing the ancient ancestor's excited shout, all the powerful men of the sect were extremely shocked. The masters of the Tangshan divine sect and the Chen family at the scene trembled together, as if they had a 1,000-year cold disease and trembled non-stop. When people are frightened and shocked to the extreme, they can't help but scream, and Yeo Kingsu covered her cherry mouth with both hands, trying not to make a sound. Wei Zhangyuan was even more scared to death. Under the aura of the Deep Sea Demon Kun soul ring, Wei Zhangyuan's 100,000-year soul ring was sobbing, as if begging for mercy and crying. Not only Wei Zhangyuan's 100,000-year soul ring, but even his 8 golden Buddha sword hearts were also trembling and buzzing. Yang Xiaoshan did not activate the power of the 10 great sword hearts and punched out. Suddenly, the soul ring of the Deep Sea Demon Kun shone brightly, and the vast power of the million-year soul ring roared and shot out from its fist. When the vast power of the million-year soul ring shot out, the world trembled, and everyone's soul was trembling. Everyone felt the destructive power of the Deep Sea Demon Kun. Faced with the destructive power of the Deep Sea Demon Kun, many disciples of the Tangshan divine sect and the Chen family were even more frightened. The vast power, like the dark sea of the end of the world, covered the sky and bombarded Wei Zhangyuan. The world seemed to have disappeared. In Wei Zhangyuan's eyes, there was only the endless dark and vast power. Boom. The sword energy of the Mingwang in his body was instantly blasted away. The shadows of the golden Buddhas of the 8 golden Buddha sword hearts also broke like bubbles. The 9-colored peacock king martial soul screamed even more miserably, like a blood-crying cuckoo, about to burst. The soul ring of the purple-eyed bull demon king collapsed inch by inch. Wei Zhangyuan was blasted up, and in midair, blood was spurting out of his body. That's right, it was spurting out. Finally, Wei Zhangyuan exploded completely, and all his internal organs burst. The power of the Deep Sea Demon Kun still carried his body, and continued to blast to the end, blasting onto the gate of Woody City. The gate of Woody City shook. The power of the Deep Sea Demon Kun continued to wreak havoc in Woody City for a long time. Liu Xingyu and others looked at the scene in front of them, and could not move for a long time. Yang Xiaoshan stood there, like a demon or a god. Chapter 334 I'm the new leader of Tangshan sect. One punch. The 9 golden Buddha sword hearts exploded. The 100,000-year soul rings shattered. The supreme martial spirit dissipated. This is the power of the million-year soul ring. Even if Yang Xiaoshan is only exerting a small part of the power of the Deep Sea Demon Kun now, it is still so terrifying. The golden Buddha sword heart is one of the strongest sword hearts. How tough it is. The 100,000-year soul ring, breaking through the shackles of heaven and earth. How tough it is. The supreme martial spirit is known as the strongest martial spirit in the world. How tough it is. But now, under the power of the million-year soul ring of the deep sea demon Kun, all of this seems so fragile. Under the power of the million-year soul ring, it is impossible to die. Even the armor on his body was blown to ashes. Ice Flame Killin, Sky Blue Thunder Python, and Destroying Demon Ancestor were also shocked beyond words. At the end of the street, the gate of Woody City was still shaking and ringing. Yao Kinksu's heart was thumping. She looked at Yangzai Ocean, her eyes full of stars. Liu Xinggai, who finally came back to his senses. He looked at Yangzai Ocean again. His face was uncertain. His heart was extremely complicated, with shock, horror, disbelief, fear, jealousy and even murderous intent. Just when Liu Xinggai, who had the intention to kill, suddenly, Yangzai Ocean had a magic sword in his hand. When the magic sword appeared, the sharpness of the sword made the skin of everyone present hurt. Seeing the magic sword in Yangzai Ocean's hand, both Liu Xinggai and other masters of Tangshan Divine Sect had their eyes widened. Since you are disciples of the Divine Power Divine Sect, you should know this sword, right? Yangzai Ocean looked at Liu Xinggai, Wu Fei and others indifferently. When he said this, he infused his true essence, and the sword light of Tangshan Divine Sword kept swallowing. The power of Tangshan Sword Dao enveloped Liu Xinggai and others. Tangshan Divine Sword. Liu Xinggai fell to his knees with a plop, his lips trembling. All the other masters of Tangshan Divine Religion knelt down in unison, full of excitement, and bowed down endlessly. It's the leader. It's the master. Master. I'm the new leader of Tangshan Divine Religion. Dozens of masters of Tangshan Divine Religion shouted excitedly, their eyes filled with tears. Lord Hangfeng had left Tangshan Divine Religion for many years. Before leaving, he left a message that when the Tangshan Divine Sword reappeared in the world, the new leader of Tangshan Divine Religion would appear. The believers of Tangshan Divine Religion have always kept this in mind. They have been waiting for the appearance of the Tangshan Divine Sword. And now, the Tangshan Divine Sword has finally reappeared in the world. Their new leader of Tangshan Divine Religion has finally appeared. What makes them even more proud and excited is that their new leader of Tangshan Divine Religion has condensed a million-year soul ring. How lucky their Tangshan Divine Religion is. How honorable their Tangshan Divine Religion is. Everyone, get up. Yangzai Ocean said. Suddenly, all the masters of Tangshan Divine Religion stood up in unison, as if they were pardoned, and dared not disobey in the slightest. Wu Fei and Liu Xinggai were shivering, standing in the cold and snowy ground, like they were naked. Yangzai Ocean glanced at the two of them. With just one glance, the two of them were so scared that they lost two of their three souls. Yangzai Ocean's eyes fell on the masters of the Chen family, took out more than a dozen control pills, and then asked the Chen family to swallow them. The Chen family members were pale. But under the death-like eyes of the masters of the Tangshan Divine Sect, the Ice Flame Kirin, and the Sky Blue Thunder Python, the Chen family members finally swallowed the pills. Yangzai Ocean turned to Yao Kinksu and said, Miss Yao, please don't tell anyone about what happened today. Then he took out a control pill. Yao Kinksu looked at the control pill and her face turned pale. She gritted her teeth and finally took the pill and swallowed it. She knew that, if she said no, Yangzai Ocean would kill her on the spot without hesitation. Yangzai Ocean would not be merciful. Master, since you have returned, I will inform the Tangshan Sect headquarters. An old ancestor of the Tangshan Sect came forward and said respectfully and excitedly, no need for now. Yangzai Ocean shook his head. He heard from Bingai and Kilin that, since his master Hangfeng Shenzhou left the Tangshan Sect, there has been some chaos in the Tangshan Sect in recent years. After thinking again and again, Yangzai Ocean did not want to alarm the Tangshan Sect headquarters yet. When the time is right, he will go to the Tangshan Sect headquarters in person. Then Yangzai Ocean said, I'm going to Jianyuan now. When the opening of Woody City is over, you go back to the Zhongzhou branch first, and you don't have to wait for me. If I have time, I will go to the Zhongzhou branch. Also, no one can leak what happened today. Although everyone in the Tangshan Sect was disappointed, they still responded respectfully. Yangzai Ocean then put away the Zuanwu Supreme King Martial Spirit and the Deep Sea Demon Kun Million Year Soul Ring. When Yangtze Ocean put away his martial spirit and spirit ring, all the strong men in Woody City felt relaxed, and they all felt like they had survived a disaster. Afterwards, Yangtze Ocean and Bingan Kilin flew to Jianilan. The people of Tangshan Divine Sect saw Yangtze Ocean off respectfully, and after Yangtze Ocean left, they and the Chen family also left. Yao Kingsu stood there for a long time without moving. She looked at the place where Wei Zhangyuan had stood before, and was in a daze for a long time. The place where Wei Zhangyuan had stood before was empty, and there was only a pool of dried blood on the ground. Who would have thought that Wei Zhangyuan, the first genius of Xianzang Academy, and known as the future sword god, would be killed here, and there was not even a slag left, only a pool of blood. She sighed and left in the air. When Yangtze Ocean, Yao Kingsu and others left in the air, the entire Woody City was like a boiling pot, boiling, and everyone was excited and excited. They were excited to see the Supreme King martial spirit with their own eyes, and they were excited to see the million-year soul ring with their own eyes. At the same time, everyone was arguing heatedly about who had the Supreme King martial spirit, and who had condensed the million-year soul ring. However, what surprised everyone was who killed the Deep Sea Demon Kun. The Deep Sea Demon Kun was definitely the overlord of the Soul Sea. Even the strongest sword god would not dare to use his sword against the Deep Sea Demon Kun. Even if Lord Kang Xian was born, he would not be able to kill the Deep Sea Demon Kun. An ancestor said with certainty. Even Lord Kang Xian could not kill the Deep Sea Demon Kun, let alone other masters of the Kangshen continent. Could it be the peerless overlord of another continent? The more people discussed, the colder their hearts became. Chapter 335 How did he do it? While the masters from all sides were discussing, Yangtze Ocean and his companions came to Jianilan. When they arrived at Jianilan, Yangtze Ocean realized that the millions of swords that Shan King Li Mang said were not exaggerated. He saw flying swords all over the plain in front of him. Endless. There was no end in sight. These flying swords seemed to be endowed with spirituality in Jianilan, like fish, swimming freely. Many masters were constantly entering Jianilan to find swords that suited them. Young master, after entering Jianilan, you must be careful of the sword tide. Shan King Li Mang said seriously. Under normal circumstances, these flying swords will not actively attack people, but once a sword tide occurs, these swords will be like mad beasts, attacking and killing all masters who enter Jianilan. Once the millions of flying swords riot, their power is even more terrifying than the beast tide in the Red Moon Forest. Young master, after entering Jianilan, you can feel those flying swords with your heart. As long as you get the recognition of the flying swords will follow you. Those flying swords cannot be caught by hand. Then, the three of them told Yangtze Ocean some things that needed attention. Yangtze Ocean nodded, asked Kilin and the other two to wait for him outside, and then he stepped into Jianilan. Walking into Jianilan, looking at the flying swords flying around, Yangtze Ocean couldn't help but think of the scene when he went to see the underwater world when he was a child in his previous life. However, he used to see fish, but now he saw all kinds of flying swords. Some of these flying swords were as small as needles, and some were as big as a small mountain. Seeing the flying swords flying over, Yangtze Ocean tried to feel the flying swords around him with his heart according to what Kilin and the other two said. Yangtze Ocean's sword energy surged all over his body, and then, all the flying swords that were originally flying around flew towards Yangtze Ocean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One after another, the flying swords came to Yangtze Ocean like butterflies. Since the establishment of Woody City, no one has ever been recognized by 5 flying swords. Many sword geniuses come in one day and leave empty-handed. To be recognized by one flying sword is already famous. Even the most amazing sword genius can only be recognized by 4 flying swords. Many years ago, when the demon sword god entered Jianilan, he only took away 4 flying swords. But at this moment, the number of flying swords surrounding Yangtze Ocean increased, reaching 100 in the blink of an eye. And it was still increasing. Yangtze Ocean seemed to have an incredible power, attracting these flying swords to fly over continuously. At first, the flying swords within 100 meters around flew towards Yangtze Ocean, then 200 meters, 300 meters, and 1000 meters. When these flying swords flew towards Yang Zai Ocean, they were as happy children. If this scene was seen by other strong men at this moment, they would be shocked. Finally, Yang Zai Ocean saw that there were too many flying swords, so he dispersed the sword energy in his body and waved away these flying swords. After thinking about it, Yang Zai Ocean walked to the depths of Jarnilan. He always felt that the Thousand Buddha sword was in the depths of Jarnilan. Therefore, he planned to go to the depths of Jarnilan and induce the sword energy to see if he could draw out the Thousand Buddha sword. After walking for a while, Yang Zai Ocean came to the depths of the sword origin. He had no more scruples and activated the sword energy of the Tangshan sword. Suddenly, the surrounding flying swords burst and flew towards him like a tide. Soon, the sword tide spread to 10 miles, and then 20 miles. From a distance, millions of flying swords flew in the same direction, which was spectacular. Many masters saw this scene and their faces changed drastically. Is it a sword tide? The sword tide is going to riot. All the masters who entered the sword origin fled in fear. However, soon, everyone discovered that this sword tide was different from the previous sword tides. In the past, when the sword tide rioted, hundreds of millions of flying swords attacked and killed all the masters who entered the sword origin. But this time when the sword tide rioted, all the flying swords did not attack everyone. They just simply rushed in the same direction. What's going on? This time the sword tide didn't attack anyone. Just as everyone was astonished, suddenly, from the deepest part of the sword origin, an amazing sword energy soared into the sky. As this amazing sword energy soared into the sky was filled with golden Buddha light. Amidst the Buddha light, there were 1,000 Buddha shadows. In the center of the 1,000 Buddha shadows was a dazzling Buddha sword, the 1,000 Buddha sword. The 1,000 Buddha sword flew towards Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean saw the 1,000 Buddha sword flying with the shadow of the 1,000 Buddha from afar, and he was overjoyed. He was worried that he could not activate the 1,000 Buddha sword. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000 Buddha sword came to Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean stretched out his hand and grasped the 1,000 Buddha sword. The moment he grasped the 1,000 Buddha sword, the 1,000 Buddha fire in his body flew out, wrapped around his whole body, and reflected the 1,000 Buddha sword. The shadow of the 1,000 Buddha solidified, like 1,000 golden Buddhas protecting Yang Zai Ocean's body. Perhaps because of the 1,000 Buddha fire, the 1,000 Buddha sword did not reject Yang Zai Ocean at all. Looking at the 1,000 Buddha sword in his hand, Yang Zai Ocean was very kind. With a wave of the 1,000 Buddha sword in his hand, the sky was suddenly filled with Buddha light and sword shadows. Sensing someone flying towards this side, Yang Zai Ocean put away the 1,000 Buddha sword and flew out. When Yang Zai Ocean flew out, the originally violent sword tide quickly dissipated, and the sword origin returned to normal. The 3 people of Bingai and Kilin who were guarding outside the sword origin heard someone say that the sword tide was rioting in the depths of the sword origin, and were about to go in anxiously. Seeing Yang Zai Ocean coming out, they all greeted him happily. Yang Zai Ocean saw the 3 people coming up, and smiled and said, "We have found the thing. Let's go and leave Woody City first. Since the 1,000 Buddha sword has been found, there is no need to stay in Woody City." Chapter 336. You'd better not go to the dwarf tribe. So, Yang Zai Ocean and Kilin left the Emperor City, and then found a place to start refining the 1,000 Buddha sword. Not long after, the opening of Emperor City was finally over. The strong men from all sides were sent out by the forbidden power of Emperor City. The magic sky sword god sat on a mountain outside the city waiting for Wei Zhangyan. The two agreed that, if the opening of Emperor City was over, they would meet on this mountain. However, the magic sky sword god waited for a long time, but still did not see the figure of his disciple. He looked puzzled. Finally, he waited until dusk and sunset. Wait until the strong men from all forces had all left. Wait until there was no dog around the entire Emperor City, and still no figure of his disciple. The magic sky sword god's face gradually darkened. At this time, how could he not understand that his disciple had been in trouble? Who is it? Who killed his disciple? Dare to kill his disciple? The figure of Yang Zai Ocean flashed in his mind. If anyone dared to kill his disciple, Yang Zai Ocean would undoubtedly be the most suspicious. Yang Zai Ocean, you'd better not be found out by me. Otherwise, even if Ji Woody comes forward, there's no room for negotiation. The magic sky sword god stood up, his whole body filled with murderous aura and his sword energy surged wildly. He spent a lot of effort to cultivate Wei Zhongyuan, and placed infinite expectations and hopes on Wei Zhongyuan. Now, no matter who cuts off his hope, he will make the other person die without a burial place. Even if it's Yang Xiaoshan, he will die without a burial place. The magic sky sword god turned into a magic light sword energy, disappeared into the sky, and went straight to the Sky Burial Academy. Soon, the news of the death of Wei Zhongyuan, the disciple of the magic sky sword god, spread. The whole country was shocked. What? Wei Zhongyuan is dead. Wei Zhongyuan is the disciple of the magic sky sword god, who dares to kill Wei Zhongyuan? Wei Zhongyuan's talent is tested to be 6,000. His soul ring has evolved to 100,000 years, creating a miracle in my Foyuan Empire, but he is dead. Countless sects and families in the Foyuan Empire were shocked by Wei Zhongyuan's death. Soon, the Peacock clan spread the word. Wei Zhongyuan is a direct descendant of the Peacock Buddha Mother's bloodline. Anyone who kills the descendant of the Buddha Mother will be exterminated by the Peacock clan. As soon as the news came out, the Foyuan Empire was even more shocked and boiling. The Peacock Buddha Mother was the founder of the Foyuan Empire, and Wei Zhongyuan was actually a direct descendant of the Peacock Buddha Mother's bloodline. Now, Wei Zhongyuan was killed, which was undoubtedly the rhythm of the collapse of the sky. Big news. Wei Zhongyuan was most likely killed by Yang Xiaoshan. Just when everyone was shocked by Wei Zhongyuan's death and identity, suddenly, another news came out. As soon as the news came out, the Foyuan Empire was undoubtedly hit by a super nuclear bomb. If it was really Yang Xiaoshan who killed him, I'm afraid Jiwudi and Xianzhang Academy can't protect Yang Xiaoshan. Yang Xiaoshan condensed 9 invincible sword hearts and 2 divine golden pills. Unprecedented. The Peacock clan and the magic sky sword god will not really kill Yang Xiaoshan, right? Wei Zhongyuan is a direct descendant of the Peacock Buddha Mother's bloodline. The Peacock clan and the magic sky sword god will definitely kill Yang Xiaoshan. Just as everyone was shocked, news came out that all the masters of the Peacock clan and the magic sky sword god all rushed to the Xianzhang Academy. The Peacock clan even said that whoever dared to protect the murderer would be against the Peacock clan and the entire Buddha Yuan. Soon, tens of thousands of masters of the Peacock clan and the magic sky sword demon came to the Xianzhang Academy. However, just when the Peacock clan and the magic sky sword god came to the Xianzhang Academy and asked the Xianzhang Academy to hand over the person, suddenly, Liu Xingyu, the strongest ancestor of the Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect, said that whoever dared to touch Yang Xiaoshan would die. The words of Liu Xingyu, the strongest ancestor of Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect, surprised everyone. No one expected that at this time. Liu Xingyu, the strongest ancestor of Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect, would say such a cruel word. Liu Xingyu undoubtedly represents the entire Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect. Why does Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect want to protect Yang Xiaoshan? Many ancestors were puzzled. No one could figure out why Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect wanted to go to war with the Peacock clan for Yang Xiaoshan. Is this a war of gods? The masters of the sects were dry-mouthed. If the Peacock clan and Zhongzhou Tangshan divine sect fought a war, I'm afraid it would affect the entire Foyuan Empire. Just when everyone in the Foyuan Empire was trembling with fear, Yang Xiaoshan finally refined the Thousand Buddha sword. Yang Xiaoshan didn't know about the outside world. Young master, where are we going now? Bingai and Killin and the other two asked. 100 Races Empire. Yang Xiaoshan thought about it and decided to go to the 100 Races Empire. Now that the Thousand Buddha sword has been found and the Buddha origin empire is done, it is time to go to the 100 Races Empire to look for the innate divine iron. As for the Zhongzhou Tangshan divine religion, it will not be too late to go there after he returns from the 100 Races Empire. So, Yang Xiaoshan, Bingai and Killin and the other two drove the Abyss spaceship to the 100 Races Empire with all their strength. The 100 Races Empire is at the end of the Kangshen continent, and the journey is long. On the way, Yang Xiaoshan practiced the Thousand Buddha sword technique in the Abyss spaceship, and comprehended the Thousand Buddha sword Dao. As long as he comprehended the Thousand Buddha sword Dao, he would have the hope of condensing the 11th invincible sword heart. In addition to comprehending the 1000 Buddha sword Deo during the day, he also did not forget to control the 2 great divine fires, to refine heavenly elixirs and heavenly weapons. Yang Xiaoshen's level of refining medicine and refining weapons became more and more exquisite. Just when Yang Xiaoshen was practicing with all his heart, Bingayan Killin, Shian King Thunder Python and Mishan Demon Ancestor also worked hard to practice. These days, with the help of Yang Xiaoshen's holy level elixir, the 3 people's cultivation has improved rapidly, especially Mishan Demon Ancestor, who is about to break through the gods. After the Abyss spaceship passed through one empire after another. Finally, the 100 Races Empire was in sight. Tishan Village is a small village in the 100 Races Empire. It is also a village where the human race lives and multiplies. It is adjacent to the dwarf tribe. There are not many people in the village, only a few hundred. At this time, the setting sun is pouring its golden light to every corner of Tishan Village. At the entrance of the village, an 8 or 9-year-old child was waving his arms and hammering the iron in his hand. Judging from the shape of the iron he was hammering, he should be forging a sword. Because he often hammers iron, his arms are much stronger than those of children of the same age. While the child was hammering, 4 figures came in the sunset in the distance. They were Yang Xiaoshen and others who came to the 100 Races Empire from the Foyan Empire. Dang dang dang. Yang Xiaoshen heard the sound of hammering iron from a distance. When he saw that the person hammering iron was an 8 or 9-year-old child, Yang Xiaoshen was surprised. This little guy is quite skilled at hammering iron. Bingayan Killin said with a smile. He is using the 100 Ways technique. At such a young age, he can use the 100 Ways technique so skillfully. Not bad. Shian King Thunder Python also nodded and smiled. As Yang Xiaoshen and his friends approached, the child also noticed Yang Xiaoshen and his friends. He put down the iron hammer and looked at Yang Xiaoshen and his friends warily. Who are you looking for in Tishan Village? Seeing the child's vigilance, Yang Xiaoshen smiled and said, "Little brother, we are passing by here and want to go to the dwarf tribe. How can I get to the dwarf tribe?" Unexpectedly, the child shook his head and advised, "You should not go to the dwarf tribe recently." Chapter 337 Tishan Village. Yang Xiaoshen and his companions were surprised to hear the child advise them not to go to the dwarf tribe recently. Why? Yang Xiaoshen asked curiously. At this time, a pleasant voice sounded, "Because something happened in the dwarf tribe a few days ago. A girl of 15 or 16 years old came over. The girl was dressed simply, elegant and refined, with lively eyes and a simple beauty. Sister," the child shouted when he saw the girl. Something happened? Yang Xiaoshen was surprised. He clasped his fists and said, "I wonder what happened in the dwarf tribe. Please tell me, young lady." The girl did not hide it and explained, "A few days ago, the dwarf tribe was attacked by the elves, and many people were killed and injured. They have opened a large formation to protect the whole tribe, and refuse everyone to enter their dwarf tribe." The 3 people of Bingayan Killin looked at each other. Yang Xiaoshen frowned. "I wonder what you want to do in the dwarf tribe?" the girl asked inquiringly. Yang Xiaoshen hesitated for a moment and said, "I want to find the innate divine iron. I heard that the dwarf tribe has a piece, so I want to join the dwarf tribe." The girl looked strange. Because the elves wanted to steal the innate divine iron from the dwarf tribe, which led to constant conflicts between the 2 tribes. This boy actually wanted that piece of innate divine iron too? "You'd better not think about that piece of innate divine iron," the child said. "That piece of innate divine iron is the inheritance treasure of the dwarf tribe. They will never agree to give it to you." The elves wanted to steal the innate divine iron from the dwarf tribe, so the war between the 2 tribes broke out. Yang Xiaoshen was sweating. No wonder the girl looked strange just now. At this time, the girl said, "My grandfather knows the chief of the dwarf tribe, but my grandfather went out to mine a few days ago, and will be back for more than a month." Yang Xiaoshen was happy at first, but then he was speechless. "I wonder where your grandfather went to mine?" Yang Xiaoshen asked. The girl shook her head. "I don't know. He just said that he will be back in more than a month. If you are not in a hurry, you can wait for my grandfather to come back here, but my grandfather may not agree to take you there." Yang Xiaoshen clasped his fists and said, "Thank you, girl." Then he took out a piece of fine iron and gave it to the other party. The girl and the child were surprised to see the fine iron in Yang Xiaoshen's hand. 1,000-year-old cold iron? Then they shook their heads in fear. This is too expensive. The human race is weak, so it is right to help each other. They refused to accept it no matter what. Seeing this, Yang Xiaoshen had to give up. Afterwards, Yang Xiaoshen chatted with the girl and asked some questions about the dwarves and elves. The few people gradually became familiar with each other. Through chatting, Yang Xiaoshen knew that most of the villagers living in Tishan village had the surname Tai. The girl and the child were named Tai Qiulan and Tai Xiaodan respectively. Yang Xiaoshen couldn't help laughing when he heard that the child was called Tai Xiaodan. After getting familiar with each other, the young girl Tai Qiulan saw that it was getting late and said, "Young Master Yang, it's getting late. There are many mountains nearby and there are many ferocious beasts, especially at night, where ferocious beasts appear frequently. Otherwise, why don't you go into the village tonight and stay for one night? There is an idol yard in the north of the village." When Yang Xiaoshen was about to speak, he saw a sturdy young man walking out of the village. The other party looked about 18 or 19 years old. Hearing this, he said, "Sister Qiulan, our Tishan village prohibits people with unknown origins from entering. This kid and his men have unknown origins. They cannot enter the village." The tone was hostile. When Tai Qiulan saw the young man, her pretty face sank. "Taiwan Peng, our Tishan village only prohibits people of unknown origin from entering, and we didn't say that it prohibits the human race." This Taiwan Peng relied on the fact that he was a disciple of the Iron Fan sect. After returning to Tishan village from the sect a few days ago, he had been harboring ill intentions towards her. Taiwan Peng heard this, but stood in front of Yang Xiaoshen and shook his head and said, "I said, they can't go in." Tai Qiulan was about to speak, but Yang Xiaoshen said, "Miss Tai, we don't have to go into the village." For him and Bingai and Killin, it didn't matter where they were. Taiwan Peng, however, pushed the issue further and said, "Boy, you know what's best for you." Then he said, "You'd better get out of here as far as you can." "Get out?" Yang Xiaoshen looked at him. Taiwan Peng said with a domineering look on his face, "Yes, not only the place you are standing now belongs to our Tishan village." Then he pointed to the surrounding mountains and forests and said, There, all belong to our Tishan village. Any place you can see belongs to our Tishan village. Get out of our Tishan village, do you understand?" Bingai and Killin and the other two looked cold. Tai Qiulan glared at Taiwan Peng. "Taiwan Peng, what nonsense are you talking about?" Then she said to Yang Xiaoshen, "Don't listen to his nonsense. Those mountains and forests don't belong to our Tishan village at all." At this time, the demon ancestor Mishan stepped forward, put his hand on the other's shoulder, and waved his hand directly, and then saw that Taiwan Peng flew away to who knows where, and disappeared directly. Tai Qiulan and Tai Xiaodan were dumbfounded when they saw Taiwan Peng being waved away by the demon ancestor Mishan. The two looked at the demon ancestor Mishan in surprise. "You know, Taiwan Peng is a disciple of the Iron Fan sect. He just returned to the village a few days ago and showed his strength in front of everyone in the village. He is a 7th level martial king master. With one punch, he can kill a 3rd level beast." Unexpectedly, he was waved away by the middle-aged strong man in front of him. After being surprised, Tai Qiulan hesitated and said, "Young Master Yang, that Taiwan Peng, he is a disciple of the Iron Fan sect." "Iron Fan sect?" Yang Xiaoshen asked. Tai Xiaodan nodded solemnly. "The Iron Fan sect is very powerful. It is the largest sect in King City." Yang Xiaoshen smiled when he heard this, but didn't take it to heart. Then he took Bingai and Killin and a few others to the small woods in the distance, cut down trees to build 4 large wooden houses, and surrounded a large yard around them. Since Tai Qiulan's grandfather will not come back until more than a month later, he will wait for his grandfather to come back here. Seeing this, Tai Qiulan didn't persuade Yang Xiaoshen anymore. The night was quiet. Yang Xiaoshen was comprehending the 1000 Buddha sword way in the wooden house. On the way, he had already practiced the 1000 Buddha sword technique completely. Now, he only needed to integrate the 1000 Buddha sword technique and comprehend the 1000 Buddha sword way thoroughly. Yang Xiaoshen practiced the 1000 Buddha sword technique over and over again in the yard, and the 11th sword heart in his body was looming. He practiced until late at night, and then Yang Xiaoshen stopped. The next morning, when Yang Xiaoshan was still practicing the beginning dragon technique, he heard a regular sound of iron hammering in the distance. Yang Xiaoshan stopped practicing, walked through the grove, and came to the intersection. He saw Tai Xiaodan swinging a hammer to hit the iron block from yesterday. Under his hammering, the iron block gradually became a sword shape. After hammering for a while, Tai Xiaodan put the iron block into the furnace next to him to continue burning. This is the most primitive method of refining. Generally speaking, weapon refiners, like alchemists, use the fire of heaven and earth to refine weapons. Only those who cannot control the fire of heaven and earth will use the fire of the furnace to refine weapons. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 King City. When Tai Xiaodan saw Yang Xiaoshan coming over, she was delighted. Brother Yang. Taiwan Pen was a bully in the village. He had been pestering her sister these days. Yesterday, Yang Xiaoshan's men taught Taiwan Pen a lesson, which made him much more friendly to Yang Xiaoshan. Getting up so early to refine weapons? Yang Xiaoshan asked with a smile. This Tai Xiaodan had a tenacity in him, much like when he was a child. Tai Xiaodan grinned. I want to practice the 100 ways technique to the minor success level, then participate in the Iron Fan Sect assessment, and become a disciple of the Iron Fan Sect refining hall. The Iron Fan Sect is the largest and most powerful sect in King City. Being able to become a disciple of the Iron Fan Sect refining hall is his biggest dream now. Yang Xiaoshan smiled and said, who taught you this Bailang technique? My grandfather. Tai Xiaodan said. When he mentioned his grandfather, he said proudly, my grandfather is very powerful. He is the most powerful weapon refiner in our village. Then he said, he can control the fire of heaven and earth within 50 meters to refine weapons. He can refine higher level treasures. Being able to refine higher level treasures is very powerful in King City. It is precisely because of this that, although Taiwan Pen has bad intentions towards his sister, he dare not use force on her. Yang Xiaoshan smiled and said, controlling the fire of heaven and earth within 50 meters to refine weapons is very powerful. The 4 great alchemy masters of Shenhe country can only control the fire of heaven and earth within 50 meters. Tai Xiaodan said, my sister said, Brother Yang, you should be a disciple of a big family of our human race, and you should be very good at refining weapons. Yang Xiaoshan smiled and said, I'm not a disciple of a big family. As for refining weapons, I can refine innate spiritual weapons. Brother Yang is so amazing that he can refine innate spiritual weapons. Tai Xiaodan exclaimed. Li Ting, the first weapon refining genius in our King City, refined innate spiritual weapons at the age of 13. My grandfather said that he will sooner or later become the first weapon refining master in our King City. Then, Yang Xiaoshan and Tai Xiaodan chatted with each other. In the 100 Races Empire, the trend of refining weapons is prevalent, and weapons are being refined in the streets and alleys. However, the strongest weapon refining in the 100 Races Empire is the Dwarf tribe. Although the Dwarf tribe is no longer as glorious as in ancient times, it is still the strongest in refining weapons in the 100 Races Empire. There are nearly 100 tribes in the 100 Races Empire, including the Dwarf tribe, the Elf tribe, the Human tribe, the Tree tribe, the Sky Demon tribe, the Giant tribe, the Stone tribe, the Three-Eyed River tribe, the Charm tribe, etc. Therefore, it is called the 100 Races Empire. In the 100 Races Empire, the human race is weak, and the strongest are the elves and the Sky Demons. Although the human race in the 100 Races Empire also has gods, there are only 2 gods, and they have just broken through a few hundred years. In terms of strength, they are not as good as Bengai Killin and Giant King Thunder Python. In the following days, Yang Xiaoshan practiced the 1000 Buddha swordsmanship in the grove during the day, practiced the dragon art at night, and occasionally taught Tai Xiaodan how to refine weapons in the morning. Although Yang Xiaoshan only occasionally gave 1 or 2 instructions, Tai Xiaodan made great progress in refining weapons. Knowing that Yang Xiaoshan would teach his brother how to refine weapons in the morning, Tai Qiulin also came to the village early every day. In the past few days, Yang Xiaoshan and Bing Ironkilin tried to visit the dwarf tribe. However, as Taiki Ulan said, the dwarf tribe was on guard, the formation was opened, and no one was allowed to see them. Yang Xiaoshan was helpless. The dwarf tribe refused to see him, and he couldn't force his way in. If he had a bad relationship with the dwarf tribe, he would not be able to count on the innate divine iron. He could only wait for Grandpa Taiki Ulan to come back. On this day, Yang Xiaoshan was looking through the refining techniques of the thousand Buddha medicine god in the yard, and saw Tai Xiaodan peeking outside the yard. Xiaota, what's wrong? Yang Xiaoshan asked with a smile, when he saw it was Tai Xiaodan. Tai Xiaodan scratched his head embarrassedly and said, my sister said she would go to King City, to buy some things later. She asked me to come and ask brother Yang, if he wanted to go together. Yang Xiaoshan hesitated for a moment and said, okay. He also wanted to go to King City to take a look, and at the same time, go into King City, to inquire about some things. Okay, I'll go tell my sister now. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan agreed, Tai Xiaodan went happily. Yang Xiaoshan smiled. A moment later, Yang Xiaoshan and his friends came out of the grove, and came to the intersection. They saw Taiki Ulan wearing a light green dress, pure and beautiful. Taiki Ulan was already 15 or 16 years old, with a bulging chest, very lovely. When Tai Xiaodan saw Yang Xiaoshan coming out, he waved to him happily. When Yang Xiaoshan came closer, he smiled and said, brother Yang, my sister's dress looks good, doesn't it? She usually doesn't want to wear it. Taiki Ulan glared at her brother and said, you're the only one who talks too much. Yang Xiaoshan smiled and said, yes, it looks good. Taiki Ulan's pretty face turned red, a little embarrassed. So, several people walked towards King City. Since there were few opportunities to go to King City, Tai Xiaodan seemed very happy on the way and talked non-stop. When they arrived at King City, it was not yet noon. Perhaps it was near the new year. King City was very lively. Several people strolled for a while, and because Yang Xiaoshan wanted to inquire about the news, he separated from Taiki Ulan and her brother, and then agreed to meet again at the restaurant in the city later. After Taiki Ulan and Yang Xiaoshan separated, they went to the mineral material market to buy mineral materials. However, as soon as the two arrived at the mineral material market, they were stopped by several tall men. Seeing the other party clearly, Taiki Ulan's pretty face changed. The one who stopped the two people was Shisheng and his men from the neighboring Shijia village. Because Tishan village had a mine, Shijia village was jealous, and tried to occupy the mine in Tishan village. Her grandfather had taught Shisheng's family a lesson, and Shisheng's grandfather had his arm cut off by her grandfather. Shisheng looked at Taiki Ulan, and said with a grin, isn't this Sister Ulan? Where are you going? Taiki Ulan said sternly, Shisheng, what do you want to do? What do I want to do? Shisheng's eyes were fierce, and he pulled out a knife. Your grandfather cut off my grandfather's right arm, making it impossible for my grandfather to refine weapons in his life. He was in great pain. What do you think I want to do? At this time, a master from Shijia village next to Shisheng said, Brother Sheng, the city lord is buying a group of human girls at a high price recently. He needs the essence and blood of human girls to practice the yin-yang combination technique. Instead of cutting off her arm, we might as well sell her to the city lord's mansion. When Shisheng heard this, he stopped and his eyes lit up. Oh, each girl is worth a lot of money. I heard that those with better looks are worth at least 1,000 gold. The master from Shijia village smiled. 1,000 gold is definitely not a small amount for everyone in Shijia village. Chapter 339. They gave me an extra 100 gold. When Taiki Ulan heard that Shisheng and his men actually wanted to sell her to the King City Lord's mansion, and that the King City Lord needed the blood of a young girl to practice the yin-yang combination technique, she turned pale and said angrily, how dare you? Although she was young, she roughly knew what it meant to practice the yin-yang combination technique. Shisheng saw Taiki Ulan's pale face and laughed, we dare not? In the 100 Races Empire, the elves are powerful and almost control 1/3 of the cities in the 100 Races Empire. The King City Lord is a direct disciple of the elves. Once Taiki Ulan is sold to the King City Lord's mansion, even if Taiki Ulan's grandfather fights to the death, he can't save her. Thinking of Taikyulan being sucked dry by the King City Lord and ravaged at will, Shisheng couldn't help laughing. Not only can he earn 1,000 gold, but he can also make old man Shi's granddaughter suffer a fate worse than death. And he can also make old man Shi have a headache. It's perfect. Little brother, hurry up. Taikyulan pushed Taizayadan away and then stabbed Shisheng and the others with the long sword in her hand. Suddenly, the sword flowers flourished. Taikyulan was in the 10th level of innate, and her strength was not weak. However, as soon as she drew her sword, Shisheng broke it with a knife, and then hit her sword with a knife. The long sword in Taikyulan's hand was instantly knocked away, and then Shisheng slapped Taikyulan away with the palm. Sister. Taizayadan roared, and rushed up desperately. As soon as he rushed up, he was kicked away by Shisheng, rolling dozens of meters, and hitting the stone pier beside the road. Little brother. Taikyulan cried. Shisheng sneered. Don't worry, he won't die yet. Then he stepped forward to capture Taikyulan and said, you should worry about yourself first. Think about what the city lord will do to you tonight. Afterwards, he ignored Taizayadan and then captured Taikyulan with several people from Shijiya village and swaggered to the city lord's mansion. Taizayadan spat out blood and struggled to catch up, but just as he stood up, he fell down. After trying for a long time, he stumbled in the direction Yang Xiaoshan left. At this time, Yang Xiaoshan and his companions came out of a certain chamber of commerce after asking for information. When he came out, Yang Xiaoshan's face was not very good. In the 100 Races Empire, the status of the human race was worse than he imagined. Many families and sects of the human race even depended on the elves and the heavenly demons in order to survive. To put it bluntly, many human races are the slaves of the elves and the heavenly demons. In the 100 Races Empire, the human race sometimes needs to act according to the faces of the elves and the heavenly demons. Even many high-level human race officials have become slaves and running dogs of the elves and the heavenly demons. In some important occasions in the 100 Races Empire, the human race sometimes does not even have the qualifications to sit. When he asked for information just now, the people in the Chamber of Commerce ignored him. If he hadn't taken out a few low-grade spirit stones, the other party probably wouldn't even be interested in speaking. Yang Xiaoshan looked up at the sky. The sky was a little grey. It seemed to be raining. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan was in a bad mood, the three people of Bingai and Kilin did not dare to speak. Just as Yang Xiaoshan and his companions were walking towards the agreed restaurant, they saw Taizayadan stumbling through the crowd, covered in blood. Seeing that it was Taizayadan, Yang Xiaoshan's face changed, and he hurriedly stepped forward to support Taizayadan. Xiaoti, who hurt you? Where is your sister? Yang Xiaoshan said angrily, and at the same time hurriedly took out a top-grade immortality pill and gave it to him to swallow. After swallowing the pill, Taizayadan's face looked much better. He grabbed Yang Xiaoshan's hand and cried anxiously, Brother Yang, it's the people from Shijiya village. They took my sister away. They want to sell my sister to the city lord's mansion. They said that the city lord wants to buy a group of human girls and needs the essence and blood of human girls to practice the yin yang combination technique. They also said that my sister can be sold for 1,000 gold. Taizayadan cried, Brother Yang, please save my sister, save my sister. Yang Xiaoshan was furious when he heard it. He knew that the Lord of King City was an elf. The other party actually bought a human girl openly and used her essence and blood to practice the yin yang combination technique. The eyes of the devil ancestor Mishan were also burning with fire. Using the essence and blood of a human girl to practice the yin yang combination technique is even more demonic than their demons. Once these human girls are drained of their essence and blood, they will often be tortured to the point of being worse than death, and they will not live long. Yang Xiaoshan said to the three devil ancestors Mishan in a very cold voice, go to the city lord's mansion. The voice sounded like it floated out of hell, making everyone passing by shudder. At this time, Shisheng and his men brought Taikyulan to the city lord's mansion. The housekeeper of the city lord's mansion looked at Taikyulan from top to bottom, and after checking that Taikyulan was a girl, he smiled and said, you are good looking, not bad. Then he threw a bag of gold to Shisheng and his men. This is 1,100 gold. He gave Shisheng and his men an extra 100 gold. Shi Sheng and his companions received the gold, and their faces were filled with joy. "Thank you, butler. Which family are you from?" The butler was in a good mood and asked them with a smile. "We are from Shijia village," Shi Sheng said quickly. "If you have such a pretty girl in the future, send her to me again, and I will find you a job," the butler promised. Shi Sheng and his companions bowed in thanks. At this time, Tai Xiaodan brought Yang Xiaoshan and his companions to the outside of the city lord's mansion. As soon as Yang Xiaoshan and his companions arrived outside the city lord's mansion, they saw Shi Sheng and his companions coming out. Shi Sheng was surprised to see that it was Tai Xiaodan. He obviously did not expect that Tai Xiaodan could still be so energetic after being kicked by him. "Boy, you are not dead yet." Shi Sheng was surprised and said with a smile, "Why, you want to come and save your sister? Your sister is in there." Then he raised the purse in his hand proudly. 1,100 gold. "They gave me an extra 100 gold. It seems that your sister's young blood is quite valuable." When Tai Xiaodan heard that Shi Sheng and his men had sold his sister, his eyes turned red and he shouted angrily and rushed towards Shi Sheng, looking for death. Shi Sheng smiled coldly, raised his hand, and slapped Tai Xiaodan's head directly. He was at the peak of the 10th level of innateness. If he slapped Tai Xiaodan's head, he would probably be smashed to pieces. However, just when his palm was about to slap, it suddenly stopped in midair. I saw that his hand had been held by Yang Xiaoshan without knowing when. Shi Sheng was stunned, then looked at Yang Xiaoshan fiercely, and suddenly swung his arm with all his strength. "Boy, which village are you from? Get out of here." He was about to wave Yang Xiaoshan away. But, to his surprise, his arm did not move at all. Yang Xiaoshan's eyes were cold, and he exerted force with his hands. Suddenly, there was a sound of bones breaking. Shi Sheng screamed miserably and saw that his right hand had been crushed by Yang Xiaoshan. He roared, raised his left hand, and slammed it towards Yang Xiaoshan's face. Chapter 340. Who are you? How bold. However, just as he blasted out with his left hand, Yang Xiaoshan grabbed it with his left hand. Shi Sheng's hand seemed to be clamped by iron hoops, and his arms could not move. He said angrily, "Fuck you." Yang Xiaoshan's eyes were cold, and he pulled hard with his left hand. Suddenly, blood splattered in the air. Shi Sheng screamed, and almost fainted in pain. His entire left arm was torn off. The guards at the gate of the city lord's mansion were originally happy to watch the show, but their faces were splattered with blood. When these guards touched their faces, and saw that they were all covered in blood, they could not help but get angry. At this time, Yang Xiaoshan pulled again with his right hand. Shi Sheng fainted from the pain, and fell straight to the ground. His right arm was also torn off. It was torn off. The guards of the city lord's mansion had just wiped the blood off their faces, and they were splashed with blood again. Tai Xiaodan was stunned, and the other masters of Shijia village were also stunned. Yang Xiaoshan looked at the masters of Shijia village. The remaining masters of Shijia village were all pale with fear. The guards of the city lord's mansion touched the blood on their faces, and one of them was furious. "Boy, do you want to die?" He punched Yang Xiaoshan angrily. These guards were all human. Yang Xiaoshan raised his hand and held the other's furious fist. Seeing Yang Xiaoshan holding his fist, the guard couldn't help but said in a deep voice, "You dare to block it?" Usually when they fight, those human races dare not block it. Even those who are stronger than them dare not fight back. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Yang Xiaoshan twisted his hand, and a crack sounded. He saw that his right fist was twisted into a twist shape by Yang Xiaoshan, and his wrist was broken beyond repair. He screamed miserably, and looked at Yang Xiaoshan with eyes full of disbelief. Then, Yang Xiaoshan suddenly punched out, hit his belly. Boom. The sound was like beating a drum. The long-lost Shura power reappeared again. Then the guard was thrown up, and hit the stone lions on both sides of the gate, and then fell off the stone lions. Tai Xiaodan and the masters of Shijia village were stunned. They were the guards of the city lord's mansion, and they were the guards of the city lord's mansion of the elf clan. This human boy actually came to the gate of the city lord's mansion, to attack the guards of the city lord's mansion. Yang Xiaoshan turned his head to look at the other guards of the city lord's mansion. The faces of the other guards of the city lord's mansion, who were originally arrogant, changed. Before they could speak, Yang Xiaoshan suddenly punched out. The fist force roared. There was actually a Shura flying out faintly. Boom. The Shura fist force was divided into 3 and hit the remaining 3 guards of the city lord's mansion. The 3 of them smashed hard on the cinnabar iron gate. The iron gate of the city lord's mansion was like a candle in the wind, shaking constantly. Yang Xiaoshan stepped over the gate and walked towards the other people from Shijia village. The people from Shijia village were already scared to death. Yang Xiaoshan flashed, and several Yang Xiaoshans appeared. It was an ancient supreme magical power, invincible clones. Several Yang Xiaoshans punched out at the same time. All the people from Shijia village were blown away, and several of them smashed through the rockery in the front yard of the mansion, and then blasted into the back wall. The entire wall collapsed. Dust rolled. Tai Xiaodan looked at the blown away gate of the city lord's mansion and the destroyed wall of the city lord's mansion, stunned, and had forgotten that he was here to save his sister. At this time, in the main hall of the city lord's mansion, the young city lord Haiyan was hosting a banquet to entertain the Iron Fan Gate elder Chen Sien and several powerful families in King City, and Li Ting, the first weapon refining genius in King City who was admired by Tai Xiaodan, was also sitting there. Haiyan, Li Ting, Chen Sien and others were toasting happily, and suddenly heard a loud noise coming from outside, and there were screams, and they were all stunned. Someone came to the city lord's mansion to make trouble? Everyone couldn't believe that someone would dare to come to the city lord's mansion to make trouble. Go and see what's going on. Haiyan's face darkened, and he said to his men, "You are disturbing my mood. Bring them here. I want to peel off their skin layer by layer." He did this kind of thing a lot, often hanging some human masters who offended him to the King City Square, and then peeling off their skin layer by layer. Haiyan enjoyed the heart-wrenching screams of fear when the other party was skinned. His men trembled, responded respectfully, and then all went. "Let's continue drinking." Haiyan raised his glass and smiled at everyone in the hall. At this time, Yang Xiaoshan walked all the way to the backyard of the city lord's mansion. On the way, he was attacked by guards, and he punched them, and every punch hit the flesh. After blasting away countless guards of the city lord's mansion, Yang Xiaoshan came to the backyard. In the backyard, the housekeeper and guards of the city lord's mansion were about to take Taikyulan in to wash her, and they heard screams coming from the front yard. Just as they were wondering, they saw Yang Xiaoshan and Tai Xiaodan coming in. When Taikyulan saw Yang Xiaoshan and Tai Xiaodan, her pretty face was filled with surprise and disbelief. "Young Master Yang, my little brother." The housekeeper of the city lord's mansion was extremely angry and pointed at Yang Xiaoshan. "Who are you? You are so bold. You, a human race, dare to trespass into the city lord's mansion. You dare to hurt the guards of the city lord's mansion. Which family are you from? Aren't you afraid of being exterminated?" His fingers were shaking with excitement. At this time, a figure flashed, and Yang Xiaoshan had already come in front of the other party and directly grasped the other party's fingers. When the other party was shocked, he broke the fingers of the city lord's mansion, and saw that the fingers of the city lord's mansion were directly broken. The 10 fingers were connected to the heart, and the city lord's mansion's face was deformed with pain. He roared, "Kill him! Kill them!" Just when the surrounding guards were about to take action, suddenly, the devil ancestor of destruction flicked his fingers, and dozens of demonic energy flew out, knocking the surrounding guards away. When these guards landed, the demonic energy in their bodies was like maggots, constantly wriggling in their bodies. Everyone rolled in pain. Seeing this scene, the city lord's mansion was horrified. Yang Xiaoshan looked at the other person coldly. "I hate it most when people point fingers at me." Having said that, he held the other fingers of the other person's hands, and then broke them hard. When Haiyan's men came over, they saw the scene of the city manager's 10 fingers being broken. The city manager was an elf and the steward of the King City Lord's mansion. He was pampered, and had never suffered such pain before. It was as painful as slaughtering a pig, and tears flowed out. Haiyan's men were all elves. Looking at the scene in front of them, they were shocked and angry. A human dared to attack their elves openly. "Boy, if you dare to attack the elves, you will die very miserably," one of them said coldly, and drew the knife in his hand. Chapter 341. It seems to be for a human girl. The elf master was a 9th level martial king, with his true essence infused, and the sword in his hand was emitting a burst of light and a chilling aura. A 9th level martial king was definitely considered a master in King City. However, just as he drew out his sword, Yang Xiaoshan slapped him back. Suddenly, a huge golden palm print hit the opponent. Bang! The elf master was slapped away by Yang Xiaoshan's palm. His bones and muscles were cracking. When he fell to the ground, he lay there, his armor exploded, and he opened his mouth and spat out blood foam. The other elf masters all took a breath of cold air, their faces changed drastically, and they retreated in fear. However, as soon as they retreated, they found that the devil ancestor of destruction had been behind them without knowing when. Several people suppressed their fear, and one of them glared at Yang Xiaoshan. Boy, have you thought about the consequences? In the 100 Races Empire, a human dared to attack the Elf City Lord's mansion, and killed and injured so many masters of the City Lord's mansion. It was simply a crime of genocide. What if you thought about it? What if you didn't think about it? Yang Xiaoshan said coldly, and then punched the housekeeper in the belly, knocking the other party into the distant pavilion, smashing the pavilion to pieces. Soon, there was another stench. As Yang Xiaoshan's cultivation level increased, his shuriken became more and more powerful, and almost every punch could make the other party's poop spray wildly. Seeing the housekeeper's miserable appearance, several elf masters swallowed back the harsh words they were about to say. Our city lord will be back soon. You can't escape. One of them said in a deep voice. Escape? Who said we want to escape? Yang Xiaoshan walked towards them with a cold face. Several people retreated in shock, and suddenly one of them suddenly attacked Bengai and killed him. It turned out that this guy thought that the Ice Flame Kirin was a soft persimmon. Seeing the opponent attacking, the Ice Flame Kirin was too lazy to attack, and blew a breath directly. Suddenly, the sky was cold and the wind was strong, like a level 19 terrifying storm. The elf master was blown away in an instant. When he landed, his body was broken into blue ice. Several other elf masters were about to attack the Azure Thunder Python, but they were so scared that they stopped. At this time, the Azure Thunder Python also blew a breath. Suddenly, the 9 heavens thunder rolled and turned into a sea of thunder. Several elves were terrified. Just as they were about to speak, they were drowned by the rolling thunder. The thunder rolled, carrying the bodies of several people and blasting through one courtyard wall after another. When they landed, they had become several piles of black slag. Taikyulan and Taiziadan were standing there, and they were completely shocked by the scene before them. Brother Yang, shall we leave quickly? Taikyulan came back to her senses and said anxiously, the army of the city lord's mansion will probably be here soon. Leave. Yang Xiaoshan shook his head and said, it's rare to come to the city lord's mansion of the elf clan. I want to take a look around. Then he took Bengai and Killin and the other two to the main hall of the city lord's mansion. At this time, Haiyan saw that several of his men had been out for a long time and had not returned, and he could not help but frown. Chen Sen, the elder of the Iron Fan Gate, Li Ting, the first weapon refining genius in King City, and others also felt strange. Young city lord, it's not good. At this time, an elf clan master ran in with a terrified face, and his voice trembled. Young city lord, they are coming. They? Haiyan saw the terrified look of his men and his face sank. Who is coming? It's those human masters. The elf said tremblingly. Those human masters broke into the city lord's mansion, and are now coming this way. Where are Heilong and the others? Haiyan said angrily. Heilong was the master of the early 9th level of the Martial King. Lord Heilong and the others are dead. The elf master cried. They are all dead. Everyone in the hall was shocked. Especially Chen Sen, Li Ting and others were incredulous. Haiyan was furious when he heard it. Several human races broke into their city lord's mansion and killed so many of their elf masters. It's just looking for death, looking for death. Haiyan crushed the wine glass angrily. What are they doing? He wanted to know why these people broke into their city lord's mansion for no reason and killed so many elf masters in their city lord's mansion. It seems to be for a human girl. The elf master trembled and said, today, the housekeeper bought a human girl from several human races. A human girl. Haiyan was furious. For a human girl, you dare to kill so many masters of my elf race. Then he asked, have the army in the city come? The army in the city has already arrived. The elf master hurriedly said, and his heart was slightly relieved. At this time, there was a scream outside the hall, and the elf master guarding outside the hall was blasted into the hall. The ground of the hall was blasted and cracked. Everyone was startled and looked over, only to see a young man in a light blue brocade robe walking in. Behind the young man, followed 3 tall subordinates, 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 green. In addition to the 3 subordinates, there was also a pair of siblings. The people who came were Yang Xiaoshan and his companions. Yang Xiaoshan came in, glanced at the dozen or so human masters who were invited to the banquet, and then his eyes fell on Haiyan, Chen Sen, Li Ting and others all stood up. Haiyan walked out of his seat and looked at Yang Xiaoshan coldly. "Boy, which family are you from? How dare you commit treason and kill my elf master?" "Treason?" Yang Xiaoshan laughed when he heard it. Obviously, in the eyes of Haiyan and others of the elf clan, the human race is inferior. At this time, Chen Sen, the great elder of the Iron Fan Gate, said, "Little brother, which family are you from? If you kneel down now and confess your guilt to the young city lord, I can plead for mercy from the young city lord for the sake of our fellow clan." Li Ting also said, "Lord Chen Sen is right. If you are willing to kneel down and confess your guilt to the young city lord, we can plead for mercy from the young city lord." Upon hearing this, the sky blue thunder python sneered. "Who does he think he is? He makes our young master kneel down and confess his guilt to him. He is the one who carries our young master's shoes, and our young master thinks he is lowly." Haiyan was so angry when he heard this. Chapter 342. You're in big trouble. Chen Sen, Li Ting and others all changed their expressions when they heard the Azure Thunder Python say that Haiyan was carrying Yang Xiaoshan's shoes and Yang Xiaoshan thought he was lowly. Who is Haiyan? Haiyan is the young city lord of King City with pure blood, but he was actually called lowly by a human master. Good, very good. Haiyan glared at Yang Xiaoshan and the Azure Thunder Python. He had never felt so strong that he could not suppress his killing intent. At this moment, heavy footsteps sounded, and teams of heavily armored soldiers poured into the city lord's mansion, surrounding the entire hall. Seeing the army coming, Haiyan felt relieved. He looked at Yang Xiaoshan coldly. "Boy, do you know what my biggest interest is? It's skinning. Peel off the skin of you humans layer by layer. Then listen to your screams and wails." Then he pointed his sword at Bingayan Killin, Shine King Thunder Python, and Mishan Mozu, his eyes full of bloodthirsty light. "And you, I will peel off your skin layer by layer." He shouted at the army leader who came, "Capture them for me." The army leader responded respectfully and said sternly, "Capture all these humans for me." After that, he drew his sword and chopped at Yang Xiaoshan. Thousands of army masters held spears and stabbed Bingayan Killin and others at the same time. Looking at the army leader who chopped over, Yang Xiaoshan did not make a move, but opened his mouth. Suddenly, a dragon roar that shook the world turned into a terrifying sound wave, like a 100-level tsunami, sweeping the world. It was the supreme magical power of the dragon clan, the 10 sounds of the heavenly dragon. The sword in the army commander's hand was broken into pieces and turned into countless powders. He was blown up by the blast. His hands, feet, face, and whole body were bursting and bleeding, and even his eyes were blown open. Almost in a breath, he exploded into a blood mist. Then, the sound wave continued to bombard the attacking military masters. One after another, the military masters were blown away, all flew backwards, all collapsed, and all exploded. Finally, the sound wave hit the main hall door. The main hall was also blown away. The bodies of the military masters were blown out of the main hall. The rockery and pavilion outside the main hall was smashed away. After the sound wave, the main hall was in a mess. Wherever the sound wave passed, it became a ruin. The main hall was empty again. The originally densely packed military masters were less than half left. Haiyan's eyes widened, with an unbelievable look on his face. Chen Sen, Li Ting and others were all shocked and horrified. At this moment, the demonic energy of the devil ancestor of destruction surged, and a huge demonic shadow condensed behind him, supporting the sky and the earth. The devil ancestor of destruction opened his mouth, just like a giant demon opening its mouth, and a terrifying devouring force was generated. The remaining military masters' blood and essence flew out of their bodies and all rushed to the devil ancestor of destruction. As their blood and essence flowed wildly, their bodies dried up in the blink of an eye. The devil ancestor of destruction swallowed the blood and essence of these military masters in one gulp. His eyes were bloodshot, and the demonic energy on his body was even more surging. The demonic power was overwhelming, covering the entire King City. The millions of masters in King City felt that a terrifying mountain was pressing down on their bodies. Haiyan, Chen Sen, Liting and others were even more pressed down like dead dogs, lying there, unable to get up, and unable to even move their 10 fingers. Haiyan lay there, looking at the devil ancestor of destruction in horror. Yang Xiaoshan stepped forward and came to Haiyan, the young lord of King City, and looked at him coldly. "You just said you wanted to peel off the skin of us humans?" Haiyan's face was pale and bloodless, and he trembled and said, "No matter how strong you are, you can't fight against my entire elf race. If you dare to kill me, my elf queen will not let you go." "Really?" Yang Xiaoshan raised his foot and stepped down, directly stepping Haiyan's head into the ground. The ground shook. Yang Xiaoshan stepped coldly again, stepping the other's head deeper into the ground. Haiyan's eyes, nose, and ears were all bleeding. He wanted to breathe, but found that even breathing was a luxury at this moment. Chen Sen, Liting and others looked at Haiyan, who was dying, shocked and frightened. If Haiyan died when the Lord of King City came back, they would be implicated. However, just as they were about to speak, they saw Yang Xiaoshan stepping on Haiyan's head with a kick. Blood plasma burst out and sprayed all over their bodies. Chen Sen, Liting and others were all dejected when they saw Haiyan being trampled to death. "You've made a big mistake," Liting said in shock, his face full of despair. "Young City Lord Haiyan has pure blood, is the most noble blue elf in the elves, and is the only son of Lord Hebei, the City Lord of King City, and his biological son. The elves will never let you and your family go." Chen Sen also said in horror, "Lord Hebei will be back soon, and he will definitely slaughter your entire family." Just as he was about to say more, Yang Xiaoshan kicked him and leaping out of the hall. There was a loud bang. Chen Sen, Liting and others fell into the rubble outside, vomiting blood. "When Hebei comes back, tell him that I'm waiting for him in Tishan village." Yang Xiaoshan looked at Chen Sen, Liting and others and said indifferently. Chen Sen, Liting and others were shocked and angry, but this time, no one dared to say anything. "Let's go," Yang Xiaoshan said to Tai Qiulan and Tai Xiaodan, who were stunned. Tai Qiulan and her brother followed Yang Xiaoshan and his men in a daze. They were still confused when they left the city lord's mansion. What happened today was beyond their imagination. Only when Yang Xiaoshan and his men disappeared did Chen Sen, Liting and others dare to struggle to get up from the broken walls and rubble. Looking at Haiyan's body and the ruined city lord's mansion, they wanted to cry, but had no tears. "It's over. It's completely over." Chen Sen cried sadly. Haiyan was dead, which was absolutely devastating. "Let's go quickly," one of them said tremblingly. If Hebei came back and saw his son being killed, he might tear their heads off in a rage. Thinking of Hebei's cruel methods, Chen Sen shuddered in his heart and dared not stay any longer. He fled the city lord's mansion with Liting and others. Chapter 343, Ancient Ancestor of the Dwarf Tribe. The news that several human races broke into the King City Lord's mansion and killed Haiyan and a group of elf masters in order to save a human girl shocked countless sects and families in King City. The King Cheng young city lord was directly crushed by a human race boy. I heard that the blood was all over the ground and his death was horrible. For a human girl, he actually slaughtered so many elf masters and killed the young city lord. He is crazy, absolutely crazy. The strong men of the sects and families were furious. After Yang Xiaoshan and his friends returned to Tishan village, Yang Xiaoshan continued to comprehend the 1000 Buddha sword Dao in the wooden house. Just as Yang Xiaoshan was comprehending the 1000 Buddha sword Dao and the 11th sword heart was becoming more and more condensed, Hebei and a group of masters stood on the ruins of the King City Lord's mansion. Hebei looked at the bodies of the elf masters. His eyes were full of terrifying murderous intent. He walked to his son's body and looked at his son's head that had been crushed. His heart twitched. He said nothing. Just like that, he stood there staring at his son's body, trying his best to suppress the violent killing intent in his heart. The men behind him were silent, and no one dared to speak. "He is in Tishan village?" After a long time, Haber spoke. "Yes, sir, the human boy is in Tishan village." A subordinate hurried forward and said, "Bring those people from Shijia village here." Haber's voice was chilling. Soon, Shisheng and several masters from Shijia village were all brought to Haber. Shisheng's arms had been torn off by Yang Xiaoshan. At this time, he looked at Haber with horror. "Lord City Lord, this matter has nothing to do with us, and we didn't expect this to happen. Please forgive us, Lord City Lord." However, before he finished speaking, Haber inserted his left hand into his chest, then dug out a heart with force, squeezed his hand, and crushed it. The other masters from Shijia village were so scared that their hearts stopped. Haber had no expression on his face, dug out the hearts of several people, and crushed them. "Use all your strength to check. I want to know which family that lowly human boy belongs to. I will make him regret living in this world." Haber's face was ferocious, as if he was crazy. His hands were covered in blood, like a demon from hell. Several days passed. Yang Xiaoshan practiced the 1000 Buddha swordsmanship, and comprehended the thunder of the 9 heavens in the grove. One night, Yang Xiaoshan, who was practicing the 1000 Buddha swordsmanship, suddenly burst out with 9-color sword energy all over his body. After the 10th 9-color sword light, the 11th 9-color sword light bloomed. The 11 9-color sword lights condensed together, illuminating the entire grove, and even the night sky turned into 9-color colors. Feeling the power of Yang Xiaoshan's 11 sword hearts, the 3 people of Bingai and Kilin were shocked. "It's 11 sword hearts. Young master has condensed the 11th sword heart." The 3 were very excited. 9 sword hearts are already the posture of a sword god. 10 sword hearts are unparalleled in the ages. What about the 11th sword heart? The only one in the world. That's right, the only one in the world. As far as they know, no one in the Kangshen continent has yet condensed 11 sword hearts. At present, even the strongest sword god only has 10 sword hearts. In the yard, Yang Xiaoshan felt the power of the 11 sword hearts and suddenly thrust out with a sword. Suddenly, a sword energy passed through the big trees one after another, passed through the grove, and hit the mountain outside the grove. Just now, his sword energy clearly passed through the trunks of these trees, but these trees were not hurt at all. However, the mountain far away was directly pierced by the sword energy, and a sword hole with a diameter of tens of meters was blasted out. The sword hole penetrated the entire mountain, and came out from the other side of the mountain. Congratulations, young master, for condensing 11 sword hearts. Young master is unparalleled for eternity. Bingai and Kilin and the other 2 came to Yang Xiaoshan and said excitedly. Yang Xiaoshan shook his hand and smiled. "It's just 11 sword hearts. How can it be unparalleled for eternity?" Then he smiled and said, "If I can condense 14 9-color sword hearts, that would be unparalleled for eternity." Bingai and Kilin and the other 2 were stunned. 14. They couldn't imagine how invincible Yang Xiaoshan would be if he could really gather 14 sword hearts. In fact, Yang Xiaoshan was not exaggerating. If he could subdue more divine swords, he would soon be able to gather the 14th sword heart like the Lord of Kangshan in the past. Now, he already has 11 sword hearts. If he can comprehend the thunder of the 9 heavens and gather the 12th sword heart, then he only needs 2 more. I wonder if the 100 Races Empire has divine swords. Yang Xiaoshan thought to himself. Now, he only needs 2 more divine swords. He will be able to gather all 14 sword hearts. Then, Yang Xiaoshan asked the 3 people if they had heard that the 100 Races Empire had divine swords. The Azure Thunder Python pondered and said, "I heard that an ancient ancestor of the dwarfs forged a magic sword called the Sword of All Things. However, with the disappearance of the ancient ancestor of the dwarfs, the Sword of All Things also disappeared." The Sword of All Things. Yang Xiaoshan read it once, and then asked, "What is the name of the ancient ancestor of the dwarfs?" "It's called Man Lei." The Azure Thunder Python said, "The dwarfs seem to have been looking for the whereabouts of this ancient ancestor Man Lei. If you want to find Man Lei, you may ask the dwarves. The dwarves should know about Man Lei." Yang Xiaoshan nodded. However, he couldn't enter the dwarfs now, so he could only wait for Grandpa Taikiulan to come back. Later, Yang Xiaoshan learned from the devil ancestor Mishan that the sea tyrant was investigating him these days and was constantly gathering masters from the elf clan. The devil ancestor Mishan said respectfully, "Sir, how about I go and crush his head now?" Yang Xiaoshan shook his head and said, "Not yet. Didn't the sea tyrant want to gather masters from the elf clan? Then let him gather, the more the better." 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 10 days, Yang Xiaoshan focused on the thunder movement of the 9 heavens and comprehended the ancient thunder god sword Dao. Under the effect of the heavenly grade 3 element purple gold pill, his cultivation level quickly reached the peak of the 2nd level of the Emperor realm, and he was only 1 step away from breaking through the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. The new year is approaching, and the snow is falling. It is the end of another year. When Yang Xiaoshan was practicing swordsmanship on the snow in the yard, he saw Taiqiulan running into the grove with a look of surprise on his face and waved to Yang Xiaoshan happily from afar, saying, "Young Master Yang, my grandpa is back." When Yang Xiaoshan heard that Grandpa Taiqiulan was back, he stopped practicing swordsmanship and was overjoyed. Grandpa Taiqiulan came back early, which was great news. Chapter 344, Refining Without a Furnace. "Your grandpa is back." Yang Xiaoshan walked out of the yard quickly and asked happily, "Well, my grandpa is outside." Taiqiulan smiled brightly, like a flower on the snow. "He wants to come in to thank you, but he is afraid to disturb your practice." Yang Xiaoshan walked out of the grove quickly and saw a thin old man with white hair standing at the entrance of the village, where Tai Xiaodan usually refines weapons. The other party was wearing a green robe and standing in the cold snow, with his robe fluttering. This is Taiqiulan and Tai Xiaodan's grandfather, Tai Jianfeng. When Tai Jianfeng saw Yang Xiaoshan coming out, he brought Tai Xiaodan over. As soon as he arrived in front of Yang Xiaoshan, he bowed deeply. "Thank you, young master." Obviously, he already knew that Yang Xiaoshan rescued Taiqiulan from the city lord's mansion. "You are too polite." Yang Xiaoshan quickly helped Tai Jianfeng up. After Tai Jianfeng stood up, he looked at Yang Xiaoshan in front of him and was filled with emotion. On his way back, he had heard about the city lord's mansion in King City. He asked with a friendly smile, "I heard from Qiulan that young master Yang wants to enter the dwarf tribe." Yang Xiaoshan did not hide it when he heard it. "To be honest, senior, I have been looking for the innate divine iron. I heard that the dwarf tribe has a piece of it." Tai Jianfeng nodded and said, "The dwarf tribe does have a piece of innate divine iron." At this point, he said with difficulty, "I can take you to the dwarf tribe, but that piece of innate divine iron is the inheritance treasure of the dwarf tribe. It may be difficult for you to get the innate divine iron from them." Yang Xiaoshan hurriedly said, "As long as the senior takes me to the dwarf tribe. As for the innate divine iron, I will find a way myself." Tai Jianfeng's tightly locked brows relaxed and smiled. "Okay, then I will take you to the dwarf tribe now." Yang Xiaoshan heard it and was very happy. So, under the leadership of Tai Jianfeng, Yang Xiaoshan and Bingan Qilan came to the dwarf tribe. This time with Tai Jianfeng, several people successfully entered the dwarf tribe. In the dwarf tribe, the buildings of the dwarfs are very short. Even the cities of the dwarves were short. The walls of human cities were usually several dozen meters high, but those of the dwarves were only a few meters high. After entering the dwarf king's city, all the dwarves were almost 1.3 meters or 1.4 meters tall. Yang Xiaoshan, who was 1.7 meters tall, looked taller when he walked on the streets of the dwarves. The streets of the dwarves were wide and crowded with people. The shops on both sides of the streets were almost all weapon refining shops, and the regular sound of iron forging could be heard. Just as Yang Xiaoshan was thinking about how to start the conversation, when he met the dwarf chief later, suddenly, a loud bang was heard, and the entire dwarf tribe mountain range was violently shaken. Tai Jianfeng was shocked and looked up at the sky, only to see the forbidden light of the dwarf tribe formation in the sky surging. Someone is attacking the dwarf tribe formation. Yang Xiaoshan and his companions were also surprised. Boom. At this time, a terrifying sword energy fell from the sky and hit the dwarf tribe's formation again. The dwarf mountain shook violently again. The dwarf king city, which was just quiet, was suddenly in chaos. "It's the elves. The elves are coming." Someone shouted in surprise. In the Dwarf King City, teams of dwarf troops flew out. Not only the Dwarf King City, but also other cities of the dwarf tribe. Groups of dwarf troops also poured out. In the Dwarf Palace, a super large spaceship flew out, and on the spaceship stood a group of strong men of the dwarf tribe. That's the dwarf chieftain Manfang. Tai Giant Feng said immediately when he saw a sturdy dwarf on the bow of the spaceship. Let's follow him and see. Yang Xiaoshan did not hesitate and immediately broke through the air and followed the spaceship with Tai Giant Feng and Bingan Kilin. Soon, everyone came to the front of the dwarf mountains. Yang Xiaoshan looked forward and saw that in the sky ahead, the elves were wearing silver grey armor. They were so dense that they covered the sky. There were probably tens of millions of them. The silver grey armor reflected dazzling light in the sun. Sima, don't dream. I said that the innate divine iron is the treasure inherited by our dwarves. We can't give it to you. On the spaceship, the dwarf chieftain Manfang glared at the elf ancestor Sima. Sima was one of the strongest ancestors of the elves. He smiled and said, Manfang, we came here this time without any bad intentions. At this point, he took out a golden seed the size of an egg. When the golden seed was taken out, it shone brightly, and a surge of vitality spread like the sea. The seed of the tree of life. Everyone was surprised when they saw the seed. Yang Xiaoshan was also surprised. The tree of life is the inheritance treasure of the elves, and it has many magical effects. The life fluid it produces is a holy medicine for healing. In addition, if you cultivate under the tree of life and absorb the life spirit of the tree of life, you can achieve twice the result with half the effort. Now, it takes Yang Xiaoshan 2 months to break through a small realm. If he has the help of life spirit, it will definitely take less than 2 months. Moreover, life spirit, unlike elixirs, has no side effects at all. I didn't expect that the elves not only have a tree of life, but also a seed of the tree of life. Yes, this is the seed of the tree of life. Sima said with a smile. Manfang stared at the seed of the tree of life in the other party's hand, with a puzzled look in his eyes. Are you going to use this seed of the tree of life to exchange for the innate divine iron with us? Sima shook his head and smiled. Of course not. Then he said, Manfang, don't you dwarves always regard yourself as a tribe of weapon refiners? Let's compete in weapon refinement. If you win, you can take this seed of the tree of life. If you lose, give me the innate divine iron. When Sima said this, everyone was surprised. After all, everyone knows that, when it comes to weapon refinement, the dwarves are undoubtedly the strongest in the entire Kangshen continent. Sima actually proposed a competition in weapon refinement? Manfang frowned. Why, you don't dare. Sima said with a smile. If you are not sure, you can also send people from other tribes to participate in the competition. No matter whether we win or lose, I will lead the elven army to leave, and from now on the elven army will never set foot in the dwarf mountains again. Manfang took a deep breath and stared at the other party. Okay, how do you want to compete? Today, we don't use the cauldron furnace to compete. Sima said with a smile. Manfang and the masters of the dwarf tribe changed their faces. Don't use the cauldron furnace to refine the weapon. Even if Manfang is the best weapon refiner in the dwarf tribe, he can't do it without the cauldron furnace. Don't use the cauldron furnace to refine the weapon. Whoever refines the innate spiritual weapon first will win. Sima said with a smile. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345. Don't even have the courage to compete? When Sima said this, he smiled to the elf masters behind him and said, who is willing to come forward and compete with the chief of the Manfang tribe in refining weapons? At this time, a tall and handsome elf came forward and said, I'm willing to give it a try. Obviously, it was already discussed. Seeing the elf coming out, the dwarf masters couldn't help but make a commotion. Prince Ziluo. Yang Xiaoshan heard the commotion of the dwarf masters around him, and his heart moved. Prince Ziluo is the grandson of the Queen of the Elves. He has amazing martial arts and refining talents. He is known as the disciple with the strongest martial arts talent in the elves in 10,000 years. His elf bloodline is even stronger than the current queen of the elves. I didn't expect that Zillow would represent the elves in the battle. It seems that Zillow's talent for refining weapons is even more terrifying than the rumors. He dared to represent the elves in the battle, which means that he has mastered the method of refining weapons without a cauldron. Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but think of Tang Huan of the Foyuan Empire. Under the gaze of everyone, Zillow flew forward and came to the dwarf masters. He clasped his fists to Manfang and said, "Please teach me, Chief Manfang." Seeing Zillow's provocative eyes, Manfang couldn't help but look ugly. "Chief Manfang, you won't dare to fight, right?" Seeing Manfang hesitate, Zillow smiled and said, "Chief Manfang, you are known as the first weapon refiner of the dwarfs, but you don't even dare to fight? The dwarfs can't have such a level of weapon refinement, right?" The elves laughed. The dwarfs were all angry. "Sima, since it's a competition, you can't set the rules of the competition." An old ancestor of the dwarfs glared at Sima. Sima smiled and said, "If you don't dare, you don't have to accept it." At this point, he waved his hand, and the millions of elves behind him were infused with true energy, and their spears flashed with cold light, pointing directly at the dwarves. Manfang's face sank. Zillow smiled at Manfang and said, "If Chief Manfang doesn't dare to accept the challenge, you can send someone else to compete with me." Then he glanced at the people of the dwarf tribe and said, "Whoever can defeat me will get the seed of the tree of life, and the sword of the elves will also be his." At this point, he waved the sword in his hand, bringing up many sword shadows. The sword of the elves is also the treasure of the elves. There are 10 swords in total, and the one in Zillow's hand is one of them. Just as Zillow finished speaking, suddenly, a calm voice sounded, "It's just that you don't need to use the cauldron to refine the weapon. Let me try." Everyone was stunned. Everyone looked over. A human boy walked out slowly from the crowd. The boy was wearing a light blue robe, and the robe fluttered. Zillow saw that it was a human, and after being stunned, he couldn't help but chuckled. Human? In the 100 Races Empire, everyone knows the level of human weapon refining. In every weapon refining competition in the Empire, human masters are almost always in the last 10. After being stunned, everyone smiled. A human boy actually wants to compete with His Highness Zillow in refining equipment? This kid must be crazy about becoming famous. Many masters of the elves laughed. Even some dwarf masters frowned when they saw Yang Xiaoshan coming out. "Boy, you are a human. What qualifications do you have to compete with our elf prince?" An elf ancestor even shouted at Yang Xiaoshan, "Get out." Yang Xiaoshan looked at Zillow indifferently. "Why, don't you dare? Or are you afraid and don't even have the courage to compete? The elves can't have this level of refining equipment." Zillow just said to the dwarf tribe leader Manfang, and now Yang Xiaoshan returned it to Zillow and the elves. The elves were all furious when they heard this. Sima's eyes were also flashing with cold light. Zillow flashed and came to Yang Xiaoshan. He looked at Yang Xiaoshan with murderous intent. "Okay, kid, I will accept your challenge, but what if you lose?" "If I lose, I will give you my life," Yang Xiaoshan said indifferently. Zillow showed a cruel smile. "Okay." After that, he looked at Manfang. "Chief Manfang, what do you think? After all, this matter involves the inheritance treasure of the dwarfs, and the consent of Manfang is required." Manfang looked at Yang Xiaoshan and hesitated. No one believed that Yang Xiaoshan, a human boy, could refine an innate spiritual weapon without a cauldron. Including him, as the first weapon refining master of the dwarfs, he couldn't do it, so how could a human boy do it? At this time, Yang Xiaoshan said, "Don't worry, Chief Manfang, if I lose, this cauldron will belong to you dwarves, but if I win, I want the innate divine iron." Having said this, he took out a huge cauldron and put it into the ground. The ground shook. The Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod. The Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod, one of the 4 great divine tripods. Seeing the tripod in Yang Xiaoshan's hand, an old ancestor of the dwarfs shouted excitedly. "What? The Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod, one of the 4 great divine tripods?" The dwarfs shouted in unison. The Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod is one of the 4 great divine tripods in the Kangshan continent. For the dwarves, a clan that refines weapons, it is simply a supreme treasure. Even Zillow and a group of elf masters had their eyes burning. The Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod is as precious as the life tree of their elves. Zillow even had the idea of killing people to seize the treasure. All the masters of the dwarves and elves stared at the Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod. Okay, I agree. Manfang looked at the Jade Dragon Heavenly Tripod, took a deep breath, and said. Everyone's eyes fell on Zillow and Yang Ocean. At this moment, everyone began to be surprised at Yang Ocean's identity. Can we start? Yang Ocean said calmly. Zillow concentrated his whole body and nodded to Seema. Begin. Seema suddenly shouted. As soon as Seema finished speaking, Zillow suddenly activated his powerful soul power. But, under the control of Zillow's powerful soul power, the fire of the surrounding heaven and earth suddenly roared towards him crazily. These fires of heaven and earth condensed extremely quickly and gathered towards Zillow like an amazing storm. Seeing Zillow's powerful soul power, the faces of the barbarians and the dwarfs changed. Zillow, an emperor-level soul power, controlled the fire of heaven and earth to nearly 1,000 meters. This was far beyond their imagination. Chapter 346. That's all. The elves were all excited when they saw Zillow's powerful soul power. His Highness Zillow has such a powerful soul power. He is definitely the best among the younger generation of our 100 races empire. An elf ancestor exclaimed. With such an unparalleled genius like His Highness Zillow, our elves will prosper and become powerful. Under the astonished eyes of the crowd, the fire of heaven and earth around Zillow turned into an amazing sea of fire. Zillow stood there, waving his hands, and under his control, the fire of heaven and earth turned into fire dragons. The third of the 10 major refining techniques, the sky fire into spirit. Manfang was surprised again when he saw Zillow's technique. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard it. It's okay that Zillow's soul power is so powerful, but he even knows the 10 major refining techniques. Is there any need to compete in this competition? Many dwarf masters couldn't help but look at Yang Ocean. But they saw Yang Ocean standing there without moving. An elf ancestor laughed and said, could this human boy be so scared of seeing the terrifying power of our prince's soul that he dared not take action? Everyone laughed. Even Manfang frowned. At this moment, suddenly, Yang Ocean opened his hand and said, fire. Everyone was shocked to see that Yang Ocean was going to refine the weapon with one hand. Suddenly, the whole world was terribly silent. At the moment, when the world was silent, boom. The whole space of heaven and earth shook violently. Everyone saw that the terrifying fire of heaven and earth was like a tsunami of 100 levels, overwhelming, and the endless fire of heaven and earth could not see the end. Even the fire of heaven and earth around Zillow roared towards Yang Ocean. It was completely out of the control of Zillow's soul power. Zillow's face changed drastically, and he frantically urged the power of his soul, but it was useless. All the fire of heaven and earth rushed towards Yang Ocean like a raging flood. Everyone was scared. The old ancestor of the elves looked at the overwhelming fire of heaven and earth that was more than 10 miles in radius, and his face changed drastically, as if he had seen a ghost. Seema, Manfang and others were even more incredible. Everyone was shocked. The fire of heaven and earth that Zillow controlled just now, which was nearly 1,000 meters in range, was simply a joke compared to the fire of heaven and earth that Yang Ocean controlled in front of him. Soon, endless fire of heaven and earth came to Yang Ocean's side. These fires of heaven and earth kept changing and formed a huge array diagram. The array diagram was flowing and the light was surging. Fire gathers into an array, the second of the 10 major weapon refining techniques. An old ancestor trembled. Everyone was shocked. I saw that the huge array diagram covered dozens of refined iron ores for refining innate spiritual tools, and it rotated for a while. Dozens of refined iron ores were suspended, and then quickly melted into dozens of balls of refined iron ore liquid. At the moment when all the refined iron ore liquids merged, the array diagram changed and condensed into a huge fire tripod, sucking all the refined iron ore liquids into it. The light of the fire tripod vibrated. Every time it vibrated, there must be a flash of light. As the vibrations continued, the light became stronger and stronger. Everyone was deeply attracted by this magical scene. Even the elves held their breath and forgot that the person refining the weapon was a human boy. After shaking dozens of times, suddenly, the fire tripod shone brightly, and the light inside the tripod shot up into the sky. A green sword slowly rose from the fire tripod. Looking at the slowly rising green sword, Zillow's originally handsome face turned pale and bloodless, and even the silver armor on his body that was originally shining seemed to become dim. Top level innate spiritual weapon. Top level innate spiritual weapon. As soon as the voice came out, the faces of millions of elves turned pale. Their Prince Zillow actually lost to a human boy. A human boy who, in their eyes, was not even qualified to compete with their prince. Seema and the elves' ancestors looked even worse. Everyone understood what it would mean if Zillow lost. It meant that they would lose the seeds of the sacred tree of life. And this was not the most important thing. The important thing was that once this matter spread, the elves would become the laughing stock of the 100 Races Empire. The great prince of the elves actually lost to a human. This was simply a slap in the face of the elves. The masters of the dwarves were also shocked when they looked at the top level innate spiritual weapon sword. The young man in front of them actually refined a top level innate spiritual weapon with just one hand, without a cauldron. Even their ancient ancestors at the level of divine craftsman could not do it. You lost. Yang Xiaoshan looked at Zillow and said calmly, you lost, like a huge hammer, hammering Zillow's heart. Zillow, who was originally pale, turned even paler. The level of refining of your elves is just so-so. Yang Xiaoshan said, that's all. Seema's face changed. The millions of elves were all furious. Zillow clenched his fists and stared at Yang Xiaoshan, his eyes full of murderous intent, but in the end, he still loosened his fists, swung the elf sword in his hand, and thrust it in front of Yang Xiaoshan, saying coldly, treat my sword well, otherwise, you will die without a burial place. However, Yang Xiaoshan flicked his finger and flicked the elf sword to Manfang, saying, no need, I have plenty of such rubbish swords. When Zillow heard Yang Xiaoshan say that the elf sword was rubbish, his whole body was full of true energy, and he tried to suppress his murderous intent. Seema's face was cloudy, but he finally flicked the seed of the tree of life to Manfang. Manfang took the seed of the tree of life in his hand and laughed heartily. Hearing Manfang's piercing laughter, Seema's face was as ugly as it could be. However, just as Yang Xiaoshan was about to leave, suddenly, someone from the elves shouted, stop. Everyone looked over and saw that Hebe, the lord of King City, walked out of the elf army. This time, Hebe and his men also followed the elf army. After Hebe came out, he bowed respectfully to Seema, Zillow and others, and then said, my lord, your highness, I'm the lord of King City. This human boy broke into my lord's mansion a few days ago and killed my son and dozens of our elves. What? The masters of the elves were all in an uproar. The masters of the dwarf tribe looked at Yang Xiaoshan in surprise. Many masters of the dwarf tribe also heard about what happened in the lord's mansion of King City a few days ago. Was it this human boy who did it? Exclamation mark. Chapter 347 Kill him. Killing our elf masters is a crime of exterminating the clan. Before Seema could speak, an elf ancestor said angrily and was about to kill Yang Xiaoshan. Seema stopped the elf ancestor and looked at Yang Xiaoshan coldly, as if looking at an ant. Did you do the King City incident? Yang Xiaoshan said calmly, yes, I crushed his son's head. I killed those elves. The millions of elf troops were furious when they heard that Yang Xiaoshan crushed the head of the young master of King City. Kill him. The millions of elf troops shouted in anger. The sound was like the sea, and the killing intent was overwhelming. A human dared to kill so many masters of their elf clan. The anger and killing intent in the hearts of all the elf masters present were instantly ignited. Seema was also furious when he saw Yang Xiaoshan admit it, and he admitted it so calmly. My lord, I want to kill him with my own hands. Please grant me your permission and help me. Hebe stepped forward and said to Seema and Zillow. Seema said in a deep voice, I can let you kill him with your own hands, but I want him to suffer the pain of chopping bones and cutting flesh. That means don't let Yang Xiaoshan die too quickly. Cut Yang Xiaoshan's flesh first, then chop Yang Xiaoshan's bones, and then kill Yang Xiaoshan. Don't worry, my lord. Hebe said hatefully, I will make him suffer the pain of chopping bones and cutting flesh before he dies. Having said that, he turned and walked towards Yang Xiaoshan. Hebe's true energy was madly urged, and his breath soared. He was a master of the first level of the martial emperor. A big knife appeared in his hand, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Boy, I will cut off all your flesh piece by piece first." After that, his figure flashed and slashed at Yang Ziroshin with a knife. Under the infusion of Heibei's true energy, the knife in his hand burst out with many blade lights. The blade light broke through the many airwaves and slashed in front of Yang Ziroshin in the blink of an eye. Looking at the blade light coming at him, Yang Ziroshin's face remained calm. He just stretched out his hand and flicked it, like thousands of thunderbolts exploding. All the blade light turned to ashes. Then, Yang Ziroshin flashed and came to Heibei. Heibei looked at Yang Ziroshin in front of him, horrified. Before he could chop out the big knife in his hand, Yang Ziroshin grabbed the top of his head with his right claw, and then pressed it. There was a rustling sound. Heibei's whole head was pressed into his chest by Yang Ziroshin. His headless body stood there, holding the big knife in his hand, still making the gesture of chopping out. What? The masters of the elves were stunned. Lion Man Fang, Zillow and even Sima were all shocked. Heibei, who was at the first level of the Martial Emperor, was actually pressed to death by this young man with one claw, and he had no power to resist at all. Yang Ziroshin pushed Heibei's headless body away and looked at Zillow coldly. "I heard that you are the disciple with the strongest martial arts talent in the elves in 10,000 years. Do you dare to fight me?" As soon as Yang Ziroshin said this, Zillow's face changed. If it was before Heibei, Zillow would have punched him, but now looking at Heibei's headless body, Zillow was actually frightened. Although he was known as the most gifted disciple of the elves in martial arts in the past 10,000 years, his current strength was only the 7th level of the Martial Emperor. "Why, you dare not?" Yang Ziroshin sneered. "Don't you elves always think you are superior? Now, the most gifted disciple of the elves in martial arts in the past 10,000 years dare not fight with a human boy like me. You don't even have the courage to fight." Yang Ziroshin's words, word by word, struck the hearts of the millions of elves. Zillow was even more angry and furious. What is the status of His Royal Highness Prince Zillow? He just disdains to fight with a lowly human like you. At this time, an elf master rushed out of the elf army, jumped up, and stabbed Yang Ziroshin with a spear in the air. "You want to die? I'll grant you that." His spear was in the air, and in a breath, hundreds of cold points were pierced out, like a meteor chasing the moon, piercing towards Yang Ziroshin. This elf master is the son of a general of the elf. He is also one of Zillow's men. He is quite powerful, a 6th level emperor. Looking at the cold spear stabbing at him, Yang Ziroshin's face was calm, and he stood there motionless until the opponent's spear had stabbed in front of him, and then he punched out. With one punch, the sky and the earth collapsed. Wherever the fist force passed, the space was as if a black fist hole was blasted out. Boom. The fist force hit the opponent's spear, and the son of the elf general was thrown back. Everyone's heart was shocked. One punch blasted away the 6th level martial emperor. Kill. At this moment, suddenly, 4 figures flew out again from the elves, and the 4 people attacked Yang Ziroshin at the same time. The 4 people were all 8th level martial emperor masters. Looking at the 4 people who were attacking, Yang Ziroshin stood there, his figure flashed, and 4 figures appeared, each of which punched out at the same time. Boom. Still one punch. The 4 elf masters who just flew out were blasted into the elf army of tens of millions. What? Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. At this time, everyone saw that this human boy was a peak of the 2nd level of Wu Huang, but with a peak of the 2nd level of Wu Huang, he punched away 4 elf martial arts 8th level masters. Such combat power, how terrifying. This is too terrifying. Is there such a terrifying combat power in the world? When did the human race produce such a terrifying son? The dwarf ancestor was also deeply shocked. It is incredible that a 2nd level Wu Huang can defeat an 8th level Wu Huang, not to mention that 4 8th level Wu Huangs were blown away with one punch. Even the elf ancestor was shocked. While Zillow was shocked, he was also glad that he didn't go out just now. Kill. Then, the masters of the elves shouted, and more than a dozen masters of the elves flew out at the same time. More than a dozen masters of the elves, all of them were martial emperors of the 10th layer, attacked Yang Ziroshin at the same time. Everyone held their breath. Everyone looked at Yang Ocean, and everyone wanted to know if Yang Ocean could block the attack of more than a dozen masters of the elves this time. Patriarch, should we take action? An old ancestor of the dwarf tribe asked Manfang. More than a dozen martial emperors of the 10th layer joined forces, and this young man would definitely not be able to stop him. If they did not help, the other party would die. It would be a pity for a peerless genius who was so evil in refining weapons and martial arts to die in the hands of the elves. At this moment, suddenly, a terrifying golden light burst out from Yang Ocean. A super brilliant golden pill flew out of his body. When this golden pill flew out, the world lost all its brilliance. Chapter 348. If you want to fight, then fight. When this golden elixir flew out, the mountain shook. Even the space was shaking. The terrifying power swept the world. The terrifying divine power enveloped the world. One after another, divine light shot up into the sky. The originally clear sky was actually exploded with divine thunder, as if it was the end of the world. Manfang, Sima, and all the masters of the elves and dwarves were all looking at this golden elixir that shook the world in shock. What is this? Divine golden elixir. It's a divine golden elixir. The divine golden elixir has been born. Manfang was incoherent, dancing with excitement, and almost fell off the spaceship. What? Divine golden elixir. All the masters of the dwarves and elves were shocked. This young man actually condensed a divine golden elixir. Zillow was even more shocked. He was hailed as the genius with the strongest martial arts talent in the elves in 10,000 years, but he only condensed a top-grade golden elixir ranked in the top 10. Even so, when he condensed a top-grade golden elixir, it shocked all the races. But now, this human boy has actually condensed a legendary divine golden elixir that is impossible to appear again. Divine golden elixir. The dwarf masters were shocked and knelt down excitedly. Some dwarf masters even knelt down and prostrated themselves before the divine golden elixir. For millions of years, although the divine golden elixir has no longer appeared, the legend of the divine golden elixir has been passed down and deified. For many people, the divine golden elixir symbolizes supremacy. The dozen or so elf masters who attacked Yang Ocean looked at the divine golden elixir so close, and they were also full of disbelief and shock. Kill him for me. Suddenly, Sima roared madly with a fierce face. The dozen or so elves who attacked Yang Ocean were stunned. What are you still standing there for? Kill him for me. Sima roared. At this moment, suddenly, Manfang pointed his axe directly at Sima and shouted excitedly, Sima, if you dare to touch him, I want your mother to die. Manfang was so excited that he was incoherent, and he didn't know whether he wanted Sima to die or Sima's mother to die. All dwarves, listen to my order. Whoever dares to touch this young master, kill him. Kill his grandmother. Manfang waved his axe excitedly and shouted. With Manfang's order, all the masters of the dwarves rushed to Yang Ocean and wrapped him up tightly, as if they were guarding an inviolable supreme god. Seeing this, Sima glared and pointed his sword at Manfang. Manfang, are you really going to go to war with my elves for a human boy? Manfang broke through the air, carrying the huge axe on his shoulder, and shouted angrily, Sima, you should understand what the divine golden elixir represents. Now lead the elf army to retreat quickly, don't make a mistake. Hearing this, Sima's face was ferocious, and he laughed loudly. Those legends are just mythical legends. You idiot actually believed them. If you dare to stop me again, I will destroy your dwarfs today and kill this human boy. Manfang laughed wildly, with arrogance and unruly laughter. He waved the axe on his shoulder. What if you want to destroy your race? Today, if you want to fight, I will fight. If the spirits of the elves want to fight, my dwarves will fight. Manfang's words resounded throughout the dwarf tribe. Millions of dwarf masters in the dwarf tribe swung their axes at the same time and shouted, if you want to fight, then fight. If you want to fight, then fight. The sound waves resounded through the 9 heavens. Sima's eyes were cold, and he slowly drew out the sword in his hand. The sword light shot out violently, spanning the sky and the earth. Since that's the case, today, I will destroy the dwarves. From now on, there will be no more dwarves in the world. Sima said coldly. As Sima drew out the sword in his hand, the elves' millions of troops all aimed their spears at the dwarves. As long as Sima gave an order, it would be a destructive blow. All the dwarves in the dwarves also waved their axes in their hands. The dwarves are not only a tribe of weapon refiners, but also have the blood of war and crazy fighting in their bones. Kill. Sema saw that the barbarians refused to give in, and he was furious. He suddenly swung his sword at the barbarians. Kill. Countless leaders of the elves shouted. Kill, kill, kill. Suddenly, the elves' millions of troops rushed towards the dwarves like a tide. Kill, kill, kill. All the masters of the dwarves waved their axes and rushed towards the elves' millions of troops. Suddenly, the two tribes collided, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. However, the dwarf masters who were protecting Yang Xiaoshan stayed by his side. Seeing this, Yang Xiaoshan was puzzled. He did not expect that after he showed a divine golden elixir, the dwarves would risk being exterminated to protect him. Why? However, there were too many elves, and they rushed over wave after wave. All the dwarf masters who were protecting Yang Xiaoshan were scattered. At this time, an elf martial arts master of the 10th level stabbed Yang Xiaoshan's throat with a sword. The Yulang sword appeared in Yang Xiaoshan's hand, and his true essence was activated. A thunderous dragon roar resounded through the world, and the golden dragon soul flew out. With one claw, he slapped the elf martial arts master of the 10th level to fly away. The elf master fell to the ground, his armor all over his body burst apart, and his flesh and blood were blurred. He was dead, and could not die anymore. Everyone was shocked. Heavenly sword, Yulang sword, Xiaoluo exclaimed, recognizing the sword in Yang Xiaoshan's hand at a glance. This human boy actually has the heavenly sword Yulang sword, and can also activate the golden dragon soul in the sword. Many sword masters know that, although the heavenly sword Yulang sword ranks 71st among the heavenly swords, once the golden dragon soul in the sword can be activated, the power of the Yulang sword is comparable to the top 10 heavenly swords. Just after the golden dragon soul slapped the elf master away, suddenly, several elf masters appeared behind Yang Xiaoshan and stabbed at Yang Xiaoshan. The Yulang sword in Yang Xiaoshan's hand suddenly shot back, and the power of the 9-colored sword heart was activated. Suddenly, the power of one 9-colored sword heart after another gushed out like a volcano that had been dormant for thousands of years. In a breath, the power of 8 9-colored sword hearts was activated. Sema and others felt the power of Yang Xiaoshan's 9-colored sword heart and turned their heads in surprise. 8 9-colored sword hearts. At this moment, another 9-colored sword key appeared. 9 9-colored sword hearts. Sema and the elf masters changed their faces. 9 sword hearts. This is the posture of a sword god. Just when everyone thought it was over, the 10th 9-color sword energy shot out violently. Everyone was stunned. 10. Sema was shocked. Even the dwarf ancestors of Manfang were shocked. 10 sword hearts. It turned out to be 10 invincible sword hearts. Everyone was shocked. The Yulang sword in Yang Xiaoshan's hand instantly cut through the long swords in the hands of several elf masters, and then cut through the armor on several people like cutting paper. Chapter 349 Dwarfs follow. Several elf masters felt a chill in their waists, and their bodies were cut off from the waist down. The elf masters who were about to attack Yang Xiaoshan were all shocked and trembling. First, he controlled the terrifying soul power of a 10-mile radius. Then it was the divine golden elixir. Now it was the 10 invincible sword hearts. Many elf masters were so scared that they dared not attack again. Seeing this, Sema's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He flashed around Manfang, and the elf sword in his hand instantly pierced Yang Xiaoshan's chest. Sema was too fast, and Manfang was too late to stop him. Seeing that Sema's elf sword was about to pierce Yang Xiaoshan's heart, Manfang's face changed drastically. If the sword hit, Yang Xiaoshan would die. At this moment, suddenly, a roar of a beast that shook the earth and the sky sounded, and everyone looked in shock, only to see a huge beast leg burning with ice blue flames suddenly stretched out in the void, and stepped down on Sema. Before the huge beast's legs stepped down, the terrifying ice blue flames blasted towards Sema like a rainstorm. Feeling the terrifying power of the ice blue flames, Sema was horrified and didn't care about Yang Xiaoshan and retreated frantically. When Sema just retreated, countless ice blue flames fell. There was a constant rumble. The sand and dust in the radius of who knows how many miles were blown away. Everyone looked and saw that a terrifying deep pit appeared where Seema had stood. Many elf masters who couldn't dodge were hit by the ice blue flames and were instantly burned into ice blue ashes one after another. Seema looked in horror and saw that a divine beast like the ancient sacred mountain had appeared beside Yangzai Ocean. Beast god. Ice flame Kirin. Seema and the ancestors of the elves were all shocked. This human boy actually subdued an ice flame Kirin of the divine realm, and his strength was even stronger than Seema. Looking at the ice flame Kirin in front of him, Seema was shocked and couldn't help but have the idea of retreating. After all, the elves only came with 3 gods this time. Besides, there were dwarves around. Just when Seema had the idea of retreating, suddenly, from the 9 heavens, millions of divine thunders fell like a flood, and all of them hit the elves' army. Boom. The elves were instantly submerged by millions of divine thunders, and screamed. Seema and others looked in shock, and a huge thunder python appeared above the elves' army, sweeping out with a 1,000-foot-long tail. Wherever it passed, thunder surged, and the elves' army was swept away or directly exploded into blood mist. Sky blue thunder python. Seema and others felt a chill in their hearts. Another super beast. What is the identity of this human boy? He actually has 2 super beasts of the divine realm. Retreat. Seema shouted in shock. Seeing the ice flame Kirin and the sky blue thunder python, he knew that it was hopeless to kill the human boy in front of him. As Seema gave the order to retreat, all the leaders of the elves gave the order in unison. Retreat. With the order to retreat, the elves retreated like a tide. Looking at the retreating elves, Bingayan Kilin's eyes were cold, and he said coldly, "Ice the 9 realms." He slapped his claws suddenly. Suddenly, the ice blue flame turned into an ice blue sea, rushing towards the elves like a tsunami. Thunder explosion. Then, countless divine thunders fell from the sky above the 9 heavens. When the divine thunders fell over the elves, they exploded in unison. Forbidden spells. Seema exclaimed, and the elf sword in his hand slashed wildly. The other 2 gods of the elves also tried their best to block the forbidden spells of Bingayan Kilin and Giant King Thunder Python. However, the forbidden spells of Bingayan Kilin and Giant King Thunder Python were difficult for even the 17 gods of the Cheyenne Zone to resist, let alone Seema and his 3 companions. Suddenly, all 3 were blown away. Ice flames filled the sky. Thunder roared, and the elf army was blown away piece by piece. Seema and the other 2 opened their mouths and spurted out a large mouthful of blood. The 3 were shocked and angry and dared not fight anymore, leading the elf army to retreat in a panic. The ice flame Kirin and the azure thunder python chased after them, and the dwarves also did not miss the opportunity and chased them hard. The sky-destroying demon ancestor was worried about Yangzai Ocean's loss, so he stayed by his side. In the end, the elf army left countless corpses and disappeared at the end of the sky. Looking at the fleeing elf army, all the dwarf masters cheered. The chief of the dwarves, Manfang, came to Yangzai Ocean excitedly and bowed deeply, saying, "Manfang greets you, sir." The ancestors of the dwarves and many masters all bowed excitedly. "We greet you, sir." Yangzai Ocean saw Manfang and the dwarves like this, and couldn't help but feel puzzled. Even if he condensed a divine golden elixir, even if he had 10 invincible sword hearts, there was no need for the dwarves to bow to him so excitedly, right? Manfang saw the doubts in Yangzai Ocean's heart, and said to Yangzai Ocean, "Sir, our ancestors left an ancient book. If you read the ancient book, you will understand what is going on." Then he took Yangzai Ocean to the ancestral temple of the dwarves, and took an ancient book from the depths of the ancestral temple. The ancient book had about 20 to 30 pages, and Yangzai Ocean flipped through it puzzledly. When Yangzai Ocean finished flipping through it, he finally understood why Manfang and the ancestors of the dwarves were so excited after seeing his divine golden elixir. It turns out that according to ancient books, one of the most powerful ancestors of the dwarves once followed the Lord of the Kangod, and was the Lord of the Kangod's royal weapon refiner. The Lord of the Kangod left a message that, if the god-grade golden elixir of the Kangod continent was born in the future, this person would be the new Lord of the Kangod continent. This ancestor of the dwarves always remembered the message of the Lord of the Kangod, recorded it in this ancient book, and left her ancestral precept that, if the dwarves encounter the birth of a god-grade golden elixir in the future, they should follow this person. So that's it. Yangzai Ocean said with emotion. I didn't expect that the ancestor of the dwarves was one of the followers of the Lord of the Kang God. Suddenly, Man Xiang knelt down to Yang Zai Ocean and kowtowed excitedly. We, the dwarves, are willing to follow you and fight all over the world from now on. We, the dwarves, are willing to follow you and fight all over the world from now on. All the ancestors of the dwarves also knelt down in front of Yang Zai Ocean excitedly. Okay, from now on, you dwarves will follow me to fight all over the world. Yang Zai Ocean looked at the statue of the dwarf ancestor, took a deep breath, and said with great pride. When Yang Zai Ocean finished speaking, the statue of the most powerful ancestor of the dwarves suddenly glowed with light. Man Fang and all the ancestors of the dwarves saw it, and were even more excited. The ancestor appeared. The ancestor appeared. Ancestor, don't worry, we will definitely follow you. We will live up to your expectations and the expectations of the dwarves. The light of the dwarf ancestor statue glowed for a long time. Just as Man Fang and many ancestors of the dwarves knelt respectfully to Yang Zai Ocean, the news that the elves' millions of troops fled quickly spread to the surrounding cities like a hurricane. Then, it spread to all states, regions, countries, and tribes. All states, regions, countries, and tribes were shocked. Chapter 350. Don't believe in the dwarf's ancestral teachings. What? A divine golden elixir? A human boy condensed a divine golden elixir? The chief of the Sky Demon clan, Yao Xian Hongji, was also greatly shocked when he heard the news. Yes, millions of disciples of the dwarf clan and the elf clan saw it with their own eyes. That human boy did condense a divine golden elixir. Xiangsu, the ancestor of the Sky Demon clan, looked solemn. After a million years, I didn't expect that a divine golden elixir would appear again. Thinking of the legend about the divine golden elixir, he was filled with doubt. Various legends about the divine golden elixir have always been circulated in the 100 Clan Empire. Do you think the ancestral precepts of the dwarf clan are credible? Xiangsu said, referring to the message and ancestral precepts of the ancestor of the dwarf clan. Xian Hongji also heard about the message and ancestral teachings of the dwarf ancestor. He shook his head and said, that's just the opinion of the dwarf ancestor. If the one who condenses the divine golden elixir is the new master of the Kangshen continent, what if another divine golden elixir appears in the future? Could there be two new masters of the Kangshen continent? I'm now condensing the one Yao golden elixir of my Xian Yao clan. Could it be that the one who can condense the one Yao golden elixir in the future will be the new chief of my Xian Yao clan? Xian Hongji didn't believe the message of the dwarf ancestor. However, the divine golden elixir is amazingly powerful, there is no doubt about it. Xian Hongji exclaimed, if I have a chance in the future, I would like to see the power of the divine golden elixir of the human boy. At this time, after learning that the elf army was defeated and fled, the elf chief Zi Yuandong was furious, because this time the elf army had nearly 1 million deaths. You must know that the army that went to the dwarf tribe this time was the elite army carefully selected by the elves. According to the news from the front, there are nearly 1 million people. The elven ancestor Zikun was also furious, and the Blue Elf Corps has lost more than 100,000 people. The Blue Elf Corps is one of the most elite corps in the elven army this time, with a total of only 500,000 people. Hearing that the Blue Elf Corps had lost more than 100,000 people, Zi Yuandong's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The elven ancestors in the hall were also furious. Damn it, I will lead the army now, to flatten the dwarf tribe. The elven ancestors roared, I will chop off the heads of Man Fang and that boy. The elven ancestors added one after another. However, a grey-haired elf ancestor suddenly said, since the human boy has condensed a divine golden elixir, we still need to be cautious about this matter. Zikun sneered when he heard it. Do you really think that the ridiculous ancestral precepts of the dwarfs are true? He also did not believe in the ancestral precepts of the dwarf ancestors. Zi Yuandong and many powerful elves present also did not believe it. Pass the order down. If you meet this human boy, kill him without mercy. Zi Yuandong's cold voice echoed in the hall. He killed millions of my elves, and he will never be forgiven. Seeing this, the white-haired elf ancestor did not persuade him again. In fact, he did not believe in the ancestral teachings of the dwarf ancestors. The dwarf ancestors had been dead for millions of years, which was too far away. These ancestral teachings were illusory and difficult to believe. Just when the 100 Races Empire was shocked, Yang Xiaoshan looked at the dwarf chieftain Manfang in astonishment. What? That piece of innate divine iron is not in your hands. Manfang was a little embarrassed by Yang Xiaoshan's look, and said, the piece of innate divine iron is placed in a huge iron box in the deepest part of the ancestral temple, but, that huge iron box, we can't open it at all. Why? Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but wonder. Because the lock of the iron box is made of black ice lock. Manfang explained. Black ice lock. Yang Xiaoshan heard this and felt relieved. So it was this matter. If it was black ice lock, it would be easy to deal with. Manfang smiled bitterly and said, the obsidian ice lock cannot be opened even by the first 100 strange fires. No one dares to touch the iron box. If no one could open the obsidian ice lock, the dwarves would have used up the innate divine iron long ago, and would not have kept it until now. Take me to see it. Yang Xiaoshan said. Manfang did not dare to disobey, and quickly took Yang Xiaoshan into the deepest part of the ancestral temple, and came to the huge iron box. When Yang Xiaoshan saw the iron box, he knew what Manfang meant by huge. This iron box was actually much taller than him, and it was several meters wide. However, the iron box was locked with a fist-sized obsidian ice lock. Due to the obsidian ice energy of the obsidian ice lock, the entire iron box has been covered with layers of obsidian ice. Even if you get close, it is chilling. Young master, be careful. Manfang saw Yang Xiaoshan reaching out to touch the iron box, and quickly reminded him, it's okay. Yang Xiaoshan said, and the moment he reached out to touch the iron box, the obsidian ice energy seemed to have found an outlet, and covered Yang Xiaoshan's hand. Manfang's face changed, and when he was about to attack, he suddenly saw flames gushing out from under Yang Xiaoshan's feet, and all the black ice turned into smoke. Looking at the flames under Yang Xiaoshan's feet, Manfang was shocked. Earth flame. In Manfang's shocked eyes, Yang Xiaoshan's palm erupted with earth flames, and soon melted the black ice lock. However, when Yang Xiaoshan opened the iron box and looked inside, he was dumbfounded. He saw a piece of iron the size of a baby's fist in the huge iron box. The iron block was black and shiny, and the divine light was diffused. It was attractive enough, but it was too small. Yang Xiaoshan wondered, is it necessary to use such a large iron box to hold such a small piece of innate divine iron? Just now, when he saw that the iron box was so big, he imagined how big and long the innate divine iron was. Who would have thought it was only this small? He took out the heavy piece of innate divine iron. Looking at the piece of innate divine iron in front of him, Yang Xiaoshan was speechless. How could such a small piece of innate divine iron be enough to repair the Kangshan sword? At least 3 pieces of innate divine iron of this size were needed to repair it. Do you know where else I can find innate divine iron? Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but ask Manfang. Manfang was stunned and said in a deep voice, as far as I know, the Shan Yao tribe also has one piece. Yang Xiaoshan's expression was greatly boosted, and he asked, how big is it? It should be about the same size as this piece. Manfang said hurriedly. Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but feel disappointed. Even if the Shan Yao tribe's piece was counted, there was still one piece missing. Besides the Shan Yao tribe's piece of innate divine iron, do other tribes have it? Yang Xiaoshan asked unwillingly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.